Hello and welcome back to Just Play Tabletop Wargaming. Today we have got our Soulblight Gravelords Battletome review. I'm joined by Ian, who since the leaks come out for this book has just been demolishing it. I don't know how many times I have to tell him to stop sending me lists because I've got so much work to do and I can't afford to be distracted. That's not been the case for you though, quite, Ian, has it?
I mean, I've also been really busy and distracted, but, I've just spent all my spare time reading this book pretty much in terrible image quality from the internet.
Oh, no, I wish I could have the book. I wish I could have the book in my hands right now. So annoying. But look, before we crack on, I want to thank everybody who has joined us in the chat today. Really appreciate everyone who's going to tune in. We're going to try and take what questions we can. But first of all, we're going to kick off with ZZ Grom, our first ever super chat. Been missing you, Ian. Cannot wait to see you on the gaming table. ZZ Grom, we'll talk about that a bit more in a minute.
That's very nice.
Thank you. Back. Thank you. If you do enjoy the video, please give us a like. And if you want to keep up with all our content, you can subscribe. Every week we do live battle reports, Thursday, 7 p.m. UK time. There's like 6 you can watch back right now if you just find us through this video. I encourage you to check them out. They're really, really good. But most of all, you can shop at justplaygames.uk for all your hobby purchases. All these Soulblight Gravelord items are up for pre-order right now. So please, want to get your orders in, get them in now. Now, I was talking briefly then about ZZ Grom, so we're going to see Ian on the table. Ian, you are going to be joining us on the table on those battle reports, mate.
Yeah, I mean, so the only reason I haven't really is I'm super busy in work right now, and it's a bit of a struggle for me to get down in the evenings when the battle reports are filmed. But we're going to try and change that for next season, particularly since I'm going to have the first Soulblight Gravelords army, I think, out of all of us, ready to drop on the table. So yeah, should be hopefully getting down for some games on stream soon.
Yeah, well, we talked about what we're planning to do next season for this.
Yeah,
with us doing a tournament.
Yeah.
So we're running like a stream tournament next season, and Ian's going to be commanding 2 armies, and one of them's definitely going to be the Soulblight Gravelords. So
I'm literally just finding out now that I'm going to be commanding 2 armies in that tournament. But yeah,
I know one of the ones I want to give you, but you've actually got some choice. So
good.
Yeah, but I'll pass you about that. Hey, but look, let's get on to what we're all here for, and that is to talk about the Soulblight Gravelords, and we're going to do a full Battletome review on those today. Quick talk about the models. What did you think of them, Ian? These have been quite a polar range, haven't they?
Yeah, so the things that I was most excited about were the dire wolves, because they actually look like wolves now and they look really cool.
Yeah.
And the zombies. I mean, zombies are always zombies, right? But I think they've got just enough of an upgrade to look cool, whilst for me still being quite quick to paint. But yeah, I mean, I think the one that you've got on screen right now, the Avengorii ones that really polarize people. And it's, what's weird about it that took people a while to clock on is it's got 2 torsos, right? So like the vampire replaces the head, the whole vampire replaces the head. And it's definitely a weird model. But I think it's grown on me enough for it to look like, freakishly cool on the tabletop.
Yeah,
I have seen it. I saw a good paint job, like a paint over someone did on Facebook, where the whole monster bit, they like painted it like blood colored, so all the attention was on the vampire part, which I do think is a good thing without wanting to detract too much from the model. I think one of these I'm going to paint like the monster part like shadowy black, so it's not really there, and all the attention's on the vampire part, which I think will look kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, I think
I like that. I like that one that you shared, the blood one as well. You can do ghost ones, all that sort of stuff, couldn't you?
I mean, I'm not stunningly blown away by the model or anything like that, but it's undoubtedly a great model from a sculpting point of view. And I'm looking forward to upgrading me direwolves. It were also still really good, as it turns out. So
good. Yeah, I'm not sure on this model. I wasn't a fan particularly. I think there was a lot of other models in the range that were awesome, though. I don't know how much the Curse City stuff's going to play into being on the table. I'm sure you've got some of them to talk about. But the I like the big beast guy. I really like the Kislevi looking vampire on the wolf with the wolf feet. I thought that was awesome. So I think there's some really, really good stuff in this range, really. So I'm quite, yeah. Yeah, I like them. I like them. I've had one read through the book myself. So this is definitely more on yourself today and covering a lot of this. But I haven't read through. I thought it looked quite interesting. So I am now pretty excited to see what you've got to think. So should we kick off with these allegiance abilities, then, Ian?
Yeah, let's have a look at the allegiance abilities. So I guess first of all, the first thing to know is this book hasn't actually drastically. This is a replacement for Legions and Nagash, minus the stuff that's now in Bone Reapers. So like, there's no Archon, and the book has not drastically changed. It's still very, very similar to how it was before, although it's got new models in it, obviously. And yeah, so
yeah, I got caught out with that without having a new name. As soon as I started reading it, I was like, "Oh, right, okay."
Yeah, it's just Legions and Nagash again. So yeah, allegiance abilities, Curse Bloodlines. There's some different allegiances. We've still got Legion of Blood and Night, but now we've got the Avengorii Dynasty, which is all the Curse City vampires, all the new named ones. The Castellai Dynasty, which is the Blood Knight people, and Prince Vordry is now a Castellai, so they've got their own allegiance. And we've also got the Avengorii Dynasty as well, which is these are full-on Imagor. You know what?
I couldn't make this look pretty in the 10 minutes I had this morning, so I didn't bother. Because
I'm interested in how chat thinks you pronounce Imagor. I pronounce it Imagor anyway. And Avengorii Dynasty, which is the new monster one, which there's a monster faction in every book now, and this is a decent one. So there's some different things there. Supreme Lord of the Undead, you can use Nagash again to Soulblight Gravelords keyword, non-shocker there. Unquiet Dead, so this is the grave site rule that existed before. Basically the same rules that used to be. You can still summon Soulblight Gravelord units from them in the same way you used to be as well. So the grave sites haven't really changed, which is good news, I guess, for this army, because grave sites have always been one of the best things the army can do. Like deep strike my army just anywhere on the board, and all my models move 4. So that's exactly what I need to do. So it's always been a very powerful thing to do this.
Now, is there some changes here? Is there some? They're not healing, right? Is that?
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that in a second when we get to the rules for it. Yeah, so they don't do that anymore.
And can I ask again? Was there some hero dependency on this that isn't there now as well?
What for summoning? Yes. So you used to be. Sorry, I've gone fast past this a little bit, but yeah, you used to have a hero near the gravesite to summon stuff from it, and now you don't.
And that was even the stuff coming from reserve, right?
That was even the stuff coming from reserve as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You have to
I didn't know if that was just the Endless Legion thing. So
yeah.
Got a little bit better, bit worse.
We'll get to the rules are in a different part of the Legion's abilities. We'll get to them in a sec. Then we got Locus of Shyish, which has always existed. Whenever you roll a natural 9 to cast a spell, it double casts. Unfortunately, the spell laws aren't that great, and they've actually been there from the previous book. So
how are you saying that?
A little bit annoying. Deathless minions, again, basically similar to the way it's always been. Except now, so you used to have to be within wholly within 12 of a hero to get this, or you used to have to be wholly within X of a hero, depending if it was your general on it. Now it's just wholly within 12 of any hero, or wholly within 12 of a grave site.
Well, that's nice. That's nice
to get your Deathless minions. Personally, I think no, because it's only a 6-up save, right? And it's like their army ability. It's like one of the few things they've got. I was actually going to say they might as well have just gotten rid of this rule and just given the army a army-wide 6+ save at this point.
You think it's made it a bit of a faff, have they, for how much of the board's covered now?
I think it used to be because there used to be ways to like make it a 5-up that were quite good and stuff. And army-wide 5-up might have been a bit too good and whatever, but, you know, so there would be some reasons to do that positioning. But now, it just seems like a faff now, given most of the board is covered. And occasionally you might miss it by a model or something for a Holy Within. So I think they could have got rid of that. But, you know, 6-up army-wide, mortal wound save. The number of times someone's killed my Archon and I've, you know, rolled 5 out of 6 6s or something against you, for example, even though it's only a 6, it's such a good ability because it just throws a lot of uncertainty into the mix for your opponents.
Mate, the last 2 weeks of games, it's just been sickening, these mortal these saves against me on the stream. I don't know, mate. I seen what was it? What's her name? I can't remember. Linda.
Yeah.
Made, I think, 5 of 11 when my Ironclad shot her to kill her.
Yeah.
I was just like, what's this? Like, I completely swung the game.
So new rule, reanimated horrors. So you get -1 bravery now while you're within 6 of a friendly dead walkers or death rattle unit. Written a little bit weirdly. It says, you know, -1 bravery while you were in 6 of 1 friendly. And I'm sure someone with a very long beard on their neck would suggest that if you were in 6 of 2 enemy units, you probably wouldn't get the bravery negative. But that's what it does. So -1 bravery when you're within 6. See the way it's written? We're in 6 of 1 dead walkers or death rattle unit.
Okay, yeah.
So if you're within 2 of them, you don't get the bravery debuff. Like, I don't know. Anyway,
but isn't it 2 when they're within 6 of 2?
So you get -2. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'd misread the second part. There you go. Okay, not neckbeardy at all. Forget.
All right. Okay.
And then so while you were in 6 of 2,
I thought you were going to try and say it was -3. I didn't know where you were going with it.
Yeah, I'd misread the second part. I thought it was different unit types on the second one. So yeah, I'm all -2 bravery, which is like, you know, okay. We'll see what bravery does in Age of Sigmar 3, I suppose, as to whether that's good or not. Like, one of the things I'm hoping for in Age of Sigmar 3 is that complete battle shock immunity just goes and battle shock becomes a thing again. Not least of all because it'll make games quicker, but because all the bravery debuffs in the game will actually do something. So
I've played a few games recently where there's been a lot of battle shock happening. It's been quite interesting, like a nice change.
Yeah, so that can make a difference. And then we've got Endless Legions. So this is the completely changed. This is the ability where you used to just bring a unit back within 9 of your general by spending a command point, which everyone thought was horribly overpowered, and it turns out it was just Grimghasts that were overpowered. So at the end of the battle shock phase now, you roll a dice. On a 5+, you pick a Gravelords summonable or a Deadwalkers summonable or Death Rattle summonable unit, and you bring it back with half its models. We're in 9 of a grave site, and you get +1 to that roll for every enemy unit that's been destroyed. So most turns when things are getting destroyed, you're probably going to get 20 models back on a 4-up. So, you know, it's fine. It's a good, decent ability.
Yeah.
You get to place them in, but it's not what it used to be. Obviously, you know, it's nerfed, but it's a decent ability. You're probably going to get some units back throughout the game.
I think it's pretty good. You know, it was a powerful ability, that, mate. Like, so I'm sort of quite glad to see it go as it was, to be honest. But
yeah, I think in the context of this book, I would have been happy to see it go if there was other things that came in its place that didn't bring models back but did something else. And, you know, I'll give you my thoughts.
It seems like the army resurrects a lot more models in other ways now. I don't know if that's going to be true.
No, it resurrects. Yeah, onto Deathly Invocation.
Yeah, so this one basically, like,
you used to get a lot of models back and stack it up from grave sites and add it up, and that's just all gone now, basically. So for every one of these models, Mortarch, Vampire, Death Mage, or Death Rattle hero in your army, you pick a unit, and it gets D3 models back. You can't benefit from that more than once a turn anymore. Gone.
Oh, right. Okay.
So they bring back like nothing now. So every unit basically gets D3 back in your hero phase. It's like nothing. There's basically just no reanimation going on with the
scrap that comment by me then.
Yeah, exactly. So, and a Mortar can affect up to 4. A Vampire can, like, they've given you the ability to get lots of this ability in your army, but most armies are only going to have like 4 or 5 units. So, like, what's this really doing? Like, obviously you can, you can bring back a direwolf, but you're adding skeletons and zombies and stuff, and it's really dependent on what the units do. So massively nerfed. You don't get it from grave sites anymore either. So just from the heroes. So really, the summoning portion of the allegiance abilities for this army has just gone to all intents and purposes. It doesn't do anything like what it did before. So the army's got to win games in other ways now, which we're going to try and figure out as we're talking. So that's where it is. Yeah, quite a big change. So that's where I don't think I think summoning and Warhammer can just quite happily just go away, personally. Like it's always unbalanced, right? It's always either largely useless or just too good. And you look at armies like Zinchel, Slanesh, or Death in the past, it's always been too good, or then they nerf it and it just doesn't really do enough. So I'm not.
I think from like maybe from like a points amount of models that go on the board, like just straight to bringing like massive units back that have been wiped out. Yeah, I can see that. I think it creates like quite interesting parts in the game when you're talking about, are they going to come on? Where are they going to come on? The reach that it gives armies and like that side of it's okay. I think. Yeah, I like the game would be a bit dull without that. Maybe this can come on from the flank. This can come on, or I'm going to summon 10 of these. I think that part's quite interesting, but like
an army's worth of stuff.
Yeah. So obviously sometimes it's dumb how much can be put on the board.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is I'm not unhappy at this change because I just don't think summoning as a game mechanic works that well anyway. But if they were going to take this off them as their main like flavor ability, I'd like to see some other kind of undeady flavor coming in somewhere else. So we'll see if that does come in somewhere else in the book. I suppose.
Do you think they've lost too much with how much resurrecting's been reduced on the units?
I guess what I'm trying to say without cutting forward in the review is that this is a nerf. Like, no doubt, all of this is undoubtedly a nerf, although some things have got a little bit better. But overall, the allegiance ability is like massively nerfed.
Oh, yeah. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. So
it's nice to see the chaining part of that go as well, isn't it? Like in a massive long line thing, because you can't resurrect so many models as well. If you can only do D3, and they've changed, haven't they changed that a little bit to they have to be within one of as model that started, is that right?
That wasn't already returned, that phase, so they've stopped the chaining as well.
So they stopped that.
But you can't chain anyway, because you're only bringing D3 models back, Max.
Yeah. I didn't realize that they'd stopped that though.
Yeah. Well, there is another way to do it, which we might as well mention now. So there's a spell now that every wizard in the army gets access to, called Invigorate an Aura. So it's got a casting value of 8, and you get +1. You get +1 to the casting roll for every other Soulblight Gravelords hero on the battlefield. So it's like they're doing rituals to summon stuff or whatever. No range on that. And if you cast it, you can heal 3 wounds onto a unit, and you can cast it as many times as you want in a turn. But one unit can't be affected by it more than once per phase.
Right. Okay.
So you can so by casting a spell that's probably going to cast on a 6 or a 7 in most armies, you can get 3 more models back in a unit. So questionable whether you would do that over casting other spells, but all your casters get it for free.
Okay, I see.
So they can bring a little bit more back, but really it comes down to the power of a lot of things in this book. Come down to the power of the unit that you're buffing or casting this stuff on. Like bringing back D3+3 zombies, is that worth even your time? Depends on the zombie war scroll. So
eating up a spell rough, innit? You don't cast it in addition, no. It's not like a free spell.
No. I'm just saying it is there. They've like shifted it over to casting, but it's like it's there.
Cool.
Okay, no, I misread the line there. I just read that again. I wondered why you said that. They know. No, I was right. Yeah. They know.
I didn't think I was right. I was just
sorry.
just
No, I thought you might have been correcting me. No, yeah, they know Invigorating Aura. In addition to other spells, but yeah, they can't cast it in addition or anything. Like that would have been quite cool. All your wizards can cast their spell and bring back another 3 models a turn, like or whatever.
Because maybe because you have to cast it. So
would it have been that powerful? Like, no, not really. So yeah, all intents and purposes, that style of play is just gone now, where you're just bringing loads of models back, you know, in your hero phase and stuff. Which again, I'm not that worried about. Also, because the other thing I hated about that was it was so turn roll dependent. Like if your opponent double turned you, you just got no opportunity to summon models, and the army was like reliant on it. So all your units would be at 0 before you ever got a chance to bring any back. Whereas if you double turn someone, a unit of 1 skeleton could turn back into 40 skeletons, which was negative play in the other direction.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I never thought it was. I always thought people at least had to sort of put that together, right? Planning where they put the grave sites, plan the heroes. I've played lots of people, obviously, at Age of Sigmar, and I've played you a lot with Death, and you'd have that together all the time, but then I'll play other people who wouldn't have it together all the time, and you could see that they couldn't, do that in this part of the board or that part of the board. So there was a fair bit of play to it. Like it wasn't just. Thing.
I don't by any means think it was overpowered. I never have thought it was overpowered because the units you could use it on, there just weren't that many good ones, other than Grimgas Reapers for a time. And bringing back a unit of 30 Grimgas Reapers, probably did feel a bit oppressive. I still don't agree that it was. Like, I think it was powerful, but there's lots of powerful things you can do in Age of Sigmar. And I don't think it was really that big a deal. The army was very fragile. It was based on your general, all this kind of stuff. But lots of people didn't enjoy playing against it because someone bringing back a unit of 30 models you've just killed doesn't feel great. And so, if they want to get rid of that, fine. Let's redo the army and let's rework the army and give them a bunch of different stuff instead. Seems good.
Yeah. An interesting quick question there. I think this is a no. Does the raise spell double cast on a 9? Because it's not part of the two things, is it?
Yeah, it's not a law spell. So the double cast specifically is a law spell, and that's not a law spell. I went and double read that when I was reading through stuff as well, and it doesn't. Like again, that would have been another saving grace for how to do this, but no, can't do that.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, should we look at some of the they've got different things here. Well, this first one is called Legion of Blood. Should we have a look at all these next? Yeah.
So these are all the new allegiance abilities. I guess the first thing to note about them is that they've got a set of command traits and artifacts each. And they don't lock you into a command trait or artifact. Yeah, which is good because although some of them are a little bit dodgy, most of them have actually got a really good one.
It seems like a couple of them have a nice choice as well.
They certainly do. Yeah,
I don't know if that was between artifacts or between command traits, but I did look at it and think, oh, there's a choice on command traits here, or there was some something to tempt you to take a battalion or something, that want to grab 2 artifacts, and some of them I thought as well. So
there are some good ones. So Legion of Blood, first rule, Immortal Majesty. When anyone fails Battle Shock within 3 inches of one of your vampires, an extra D3 models flee. Crap. Favored Retainers. You ignore negative.
Maybe not with like -2 bravery and bravery being immune all over the board. Like it could be okay.
Exactly. It could be okay. Yeah. Ignore negative modifiers to hit and wound for attacks made with melee weapons. This is sounding great, right? Ignore negatives by friendly Legion of Blood death rattle units. So then suddenly turns less good.
Is that just skeletons?
It's basically it's not
skeletons,
just skeletons,
Graveguard and Black Knights.
To all intents and purposes, it's basically skeletons, Black Knights, and Graveguard.
Okay.
While they are wholly within 12 of a friendly Legion of Blood vampire or 18 of the general vampire general. So not exactly great battle traits there. But then we're going to the command traits.
Would you say the second one, Favored Retainers, is less great because of how powerful you see those units? Would that be like, obviously if skeletons are amazing, that's okay, right?
Yeah, okay, yeah. I guess, yeah, we'll reserve judgment on that till War Scrolls, I suppose.
All right, okay. So I don't know how good you think these are or not, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, command trait, Aura of Dark Majesty, -1 to hit the general, always good.
Yeah,
right. Always a strong ability. They've also got another one called Sanguine Blur. Friendly units that start a pile in wholly within 12 of the general can move an extra 3 when they pile in.
It's nice.
Which is also good. It doesn't let them pile in from 6 though. Just lets them pile an extra 3. But still good.
Nice name.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Sanguine Blur. And that's the 2 good ones for them basically.
Yeah, so, I guess the reroll charge one's okay, but obviously you can get that somewhere else, can't you? So
yeah. And then they've also got artifacts, obviously. So they've got one that gives you +1 save for attacks that target the bearer, called Soulbound Garments. So where we're going with this one is +1 to saves, -1 to hit. Stick them on a Vampire Lord on a Zombie Dragon who's already got a 3-up save. He ends up with a 2-up, and you're -1 to hit him in melee. It's pretty decent, really. Most of what they've got is the rest of what they've got is stuff they've always had that's just not actually that good. Do a couple of extra mortal wounds to someone or whatever. You're on Castelli there.
This is pointless. This thing. What order of these even put this in? Yeah. Okay.
So largely, I think Legion of Blood there is. I think this is the worst one in the book. Probably it doesn't really do an awful lot. The battle traits are quite mediocre, and if you want to stick those 2 things on a Vampire Lord on a Zombie Dragon, it's you get a decent Zombie Dragon, but there's other ways you can do better stuff than that in the book. So so next we've got Legion of Night, which is Manfred's Legion. Now, this is another one of the classic ones that has come through. So, first ability is called the Bait. You get +1 to save rolls for attacks that target friendly Death Rattle and Deadwalkers units, right? This used to be when they were in your half of the table. So, although I never really played this much, it was actually all right because you could have a load of skeletons walking up the board into the middle of the board with just permanent +1 save, which was okay.
Yeah.
Like, not a bad thing, but now it's not in your half of the board, it's anywhere but only the first turn, and the army moves 4 inches. Like, yeah, it's just not good enough. Doesn't do enough. And it's only your skeletons, and you compare that to like Tempest Die, for example, to get +1 save to their whole army, and they move an extra 3 inches. You have disparity in abilities between books. The second ability they've got is Ageless Cunning, which they used to have as well. You can ambush units. You can set 1 up in ambush for every unit that is on the board. End of any of your moving phases, set them up 9 inches away, wholly within 6 of the battlefield. In a lot of armies, that would be an okay ability. However, this army, no charge bonuses out of Deep Strike, and can already do this with Grave Sites. Right.
Yeah. So, no, weak.
It's a weaker version of the Gravesite rule, largely because you're putting the Gravesites where you want. So into command traits, they've got one called Above Suspicion, which lets you ambush your general like that anywhere on the board, using that rule, which is, a nice thing to have access to, but probably not going to make you play the Legion. Just, deep striking a guy that needs a 9-inch to charge. They've got +1 to wound for attacks made with melee weapons by the general, which again is okay, but not that great. And then they've got one called Unholy Impetus, which is if any enemy models are slain by melee attacks made by the general, you get +1 to attacks characteristic of all units who are in 12 of the general till the end of the phase, which could be decent, which would actually be very good but in the context of taking this Legion, again, probably doesn't do enough to make them playable. And then they've got -1 to wound the general in melee.
That is good.
It is good. Yeah, it is good. Or -1 to wound the general in melee. So there's loads of stuff there. That's decent, but yeah, the battle traits are just so bad. Like if this had the old version of the Bait where they just got a flat +1 save when they were in your territory, that was actually pretty good, and you might want to take this for that +1 attack buff. But
that change, isn't it? What
the whole book is full of changes like that, where they've took something and simplified it and just made it worse. They've done it all through the book, and it's in a lot of ways it's another one of them books like some of the others we've reviewed recently, where it's a bit of a feel bad book when you're reading it and you're like, why has this just got? Why have they took rules off things and not given them anything back or made them better or tried to compensate?
Yeah,
it's just a feel bad book, and then you do that, compare it to Lumineth thing, and you're like, why have these got so much cool stuff and loads to do, and my army's just had rules taken off its war scrolls, But that doesn't make the book bad, though. We're very early in the book. It is a good book, so keep listening. But if you've seen the internet reaction or been part of the internet reaction and just said this book crap and tossed it away, it's definitely not that. So carry on.
Really, I haven't had a chance to have my head out of work this week really for that book. Okay, cool.
And artifacts again. There's nothing here that's going to make you take take these guys. They got ignore rend when you're getting shot, which is a decent thing if you've got a big character you want to keep alive, or +1 to hit and wound until the end of the phase. Which again would be good if there was anyone to actually put it on, which there's never been in Legion of Night in Legions of Nagash, and there still isn't in Soulblight Gravelords. There's still no hero that's a big beat stick that you can stick it on. All the guys with damage get it from the mounts, so it doesn't really do enough.
Fair enough.
We
new ones now then.
Yeah, Avengorii Dynasty. So. +1 to wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by Avengorii Dynasty Death Rattle and Deadwalkers units while they were in 9 of any friendly Avengorii Dynasty vampire heroes.
Sounds good.
Decent, yeah. And you reroll casting rolls for friendly Avengorii Dynasty vampire wizards, which is great. Unfortunately, just a little bit annoying that it doesn't just say Avengorii Dynasty wizards, because you want necromancers as you ever did. And getting to reroll spellcast with them would have been great. I know
he should have become a vampire, shouldn't he? Then? So,
yeah, maybe you should.
Good luck, necromancer.
So
commit all the way if you want to be a man of the dead.
Yeah. So these have got 2 very, very good. Well, 3 really very, very good command traits. 2 that you're going to be choosing between. So one is called Kin of the Wolf. Summon a unit of 5 direwolves once a game. Yeah, nice. 3 units that you summon, never bad, always good. Second one is Hunter's Snare. Your general counts as a number of models equal to his wounds characteristic. So, pretty good. 14 wound zombie dragon.
I like that.
Sitting on stuff. And my personal favourite, Spore Trackers. At the start of your hero phase, friendly Avengorii Dynasty Deadwalkers units, wholly were in 9 in the general, can make a normal move of up to 3. They can't run. So that is direwolves and zombies, and as we'll see later, zombies are very good.
You love the little move. That's cool though.
Yeah, I mean they've always had lots of these little abilities to like stack up and stuff, but that's really good. So
yeah, I think all 3 of them are quite interesting. I think
the second 2 are the better though.
Sorry,
the second 2 are better. I think the summon and direwolves one you probably won't take often.
I think the Hunter's Snare one, like I guess if your army was built in a way you didn't need that, or you took a direction that wasn't as like I don't know what the list's going to look like, right? Like, but say there's no zombie dragon, or say there's 120 zombies to do the objective thing, maybe you'd move away from that for one of the other ones as well. But you got some good ones to choose from, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And then artifacts,
even free command point stuff ones. Usually they're not bad if there's something that you need it for again. Well, which I don't know.
We've still got in this army the Vampire Lord command ability that just gives a unit +1 attack.
Yeah.
So it is a command point hungry army. So yeah, that is also good.
There's one per turn as well, Ian. So you can also do, their phase reroll ones, their phase reroll ones to hit. Just the general ones. So it's I think that's pretty.
Oh yeah, I missed that once per turn. Yeah. So yeah, powerful.
They've got a lot.
Their artifacts aren't quite as good. But they are still serviceable. So they got one called the Terminus Clock, which is once a battle start the enemy hero phase, all enemy wizards get -1 to cast, no range.
That's good.
Which is decent.
Yeah, I like that.
And then once per battle in the charge phase, This is called Villainous Fang.
Mhm.
You can give your hero +1 to charge for every other friendly Virkos Dynasty vampire hero on the battlefield, which I feel like is just waiting for some mad, first turn charges over stuff into important things with a zombie dragon. I don't think you can get enough vampires on the board to really do it. But it's an interesting thing. And then they've got a +3 pile in for the hero as well. Again, doesn't let you pile in from 6, but so okay artifacts, but generally decent battle traits, not at the level of some other books, I must say, those battle traits. But the command traits are great, which most books get blank command traits to a large extent. And the artifacts,
when they're locked into a thing, but that seems okay. That seems okay.
Okay. Right, next one is the Avengorii Dynasty, and this one is all about Blood Knights, basically. And so they've got the shift and keep. So this is another ambush from the side of the board thing. Again, kind of annoying because you've got access to this already, but obviously in this army, you're doing it with Blood Knights, is the idea. So you can ambush your Blood Knights. I don't think that's very powerful particularly, but, it's a thing.
Hasn't this always been around?
Yeah, they've always... This used to be a battalion, basically. This.
Right, okay.
The main ability is called Might of the Crimson Keep. So this is where they drink blood or whatever is left over after they kill things, depending on what they are. I suppose they drink it. So whenever a Avengorii Dynasty vampire unit destroys an enemy unit, they get a permanent buff for the rest of the battle. If it's a hero or monster, they get permanent +1 damage to all their weapons, which is really, really good. Unfortunately, that's not a very common thing to destroy a hero or monster.
Yeah.
In some armies, I can certainly see, if you're playing against, say, Kharadron Overlords, and they've got a hero in the boat, you're going to target the hero, kill the 5 wound hero off, and your unit's going to have +1 damage for the rest of the battle, which is nuts. The other person's got to play around this, but you shouldn't get that buff very often, certainly not when it's still critical or while the unit's still big enough to really make use of it. The second one is if you destroy an enemy unit with a wounds characteristic of 3 or more, not a hero or monster, you get +1 to the wounds characteristic of the unit. I have no idea what this means. If your wounds characteristic goes up by 1, does that mean every model in the unit gets +1 wound, or does that mean the unit gets the wound?
I think so. I think you got the little circle. It's got the wound characteristic on it. You add 1 to it. Yeah, so I would imagine so.
But there's an ability later in the book that makes me think it's the other way around, right? So
okay.
Weird. But this might be an AOS 3 thing. If this is an AOS 3 book, which is what they did with Legions and Nagash. If you remember, the Endless Legions didn't do anything in the Legions and Nagash book until Age of Sigmar 2 come out.
Yes.
But again, destroying a unit with a wounds characteristic of 3 or more, there's just not many of them in the game. They don't really exist very much. So that's not going to come up very often either. Yeah.
Slangor, Fiend Bloods, yeah.
And even if it is, 5 Blood Knights gain an extra 5 wounds, it's quite nice, but is it really that good? And the last one is just any other unit, wounds characteristic of 2 or less. So most units you'll be destroying, you get +2 to run and charge rolls, which is useless because if you're in combat, not useless, but not great. If you're already in combat, you probably don't need +2 to run and charge rolls anymore.
Don't these do the move away and come back thing though as well, don't they? So
using the move characteristic though, not running or charging. So
then they charge back in.
Yeah, they do. They do charge. I mean, +2 to run and charge guarantees your charges from 3 inches. That's the only thing. But really, you're looking for these to buff your units, right? The +1 damage one's great, and by far, 90% of the buffs you're going to get off this are just +2 to run and charge when you wipe out an enemy unit. That's the whole. That's the whole allegiance.
I know you're saying you're there, aren't you? You know what I mean? I am stretching,
Yeah. But I think what they missed on this one is that one should have been the +1 wounds one. So after you've killed some stuff, you guys have got some more wounds to take the hits back. And the next one could have been the speed one or something. It's just, I don't think it's quite there for me to make it feel like your vampires are getting stronger all the time. But it's not terrible. It's certainly, if you want to make a Blood Knight army, it's certainly workable.
Okay. Yeah.
Go on to the command traits though. One very standout one. Rousing Commander. Once a battle starts the combat phase, the general's going to rouse their warriors. All friendly Castelite Dynasty vampire units, so your heroes and your blood knights, within 12 get the first 2 of those abilities until the end of the combat phase. So all of your blood knights get +1 damage and +1 to their wounds characteristic. I have no idea what getting +1 to your wounds characteristic and then losing it at the end of the phase does to the unit either. Like, I also don't really understand what the implications of that would be.
I would imagine, like you say, there's a wounded model; it'll probably die. But I'd have to read the rules. I'd have to read the rules to know. But the rules will cover that.
I think that would be the intention. I don't think the rules cover gaining wounds at all. Not that it's a big deal. I'm just saying. I
don't know if it says like if there's a wound assigned to the model, however it says that part.
Yeah, the same number of wounds equal to its wounds characteristic.
Whatever.
But anyway, +1 damage to your blood knight.
Type of thing people get caught up about in 50 reply threads on Twitter. Like, I understand people's obsession with discussing.
But if you're doing this with a vampire lord, zombie dragon, very big base, wholly within 12, lots of blood knights are all going to get +1 to the damage. Your general and his zombie dragon's going to get +1 to the damage. This artifact is basically the allegiance. Your whole army getting +1 damage for a turn.
That's just really good.
Which is powerful. Command tray, yeah. And then artifacts as well. There's some decent artifacts.
There is.
So we got a sword. So when you kill someone, all your Soulblight Gravelords, wholly within 12, get +1 to wound. So again, zombie dragon.
Yeah.
You've got -1. Excuse me, I need to
have a little cough.
-1. -1 to wound for attacks made by enemy units within 6 of the bearer. That's my favorite.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Yeah, that's really good. And then you've got once a game, friendly Soulblight Gravelords units wholly within 12 do their deathless minions on a 5. And that's extra good because blood knights reroll 1s on the deathless minions rolls as well.
Yeah,
so that's also quite good. But the fragment of the keep's the best, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's so. If you want to play Blood Knights, there's an Allegiance that does some decent stuff for Blood Knights, which is a nice thing. And then on to the Avengorii Dynasty, which is the last one. It's the other new one. So this is the one with the new model that everyone loves or hates. Laukavai.
Yeah.
So this is really good, right?
Okay, all right.
Curse Abomination. One of them gets a mount trait. There's some mount trait we'll look at, and you get an extra one for every War Scroll battalion. And one of the mount traits is great, and the other 2 are crap. It's a bit of a shame, really.
And you can't take multiples either. This book
can't take multiples. The same one, yeah. I really miss the Beast Lords book where like you just had loads of choice in your mount traits because they'd made loads of good ones. Every other book always has like one auto include one and a bunch of bad ones. So one's called Madden and Hunger. You pick an enemy model with a wounds characteristic of 1 within 3 of the model, and it dies and you heal a wound. That's really good. No roll. You can eat a standard bearer or a champion or whatever, which is good. The model's got to be within 3, though, so maybe sometimes people will be able to keep their standard bearer away or whatever, but even just eating a champion in a lot of units, just dead champion, and you heal a wound is good.
And don't forget, of course,
stringing lines and stuff.
Yeah, but it starts the combat phase, this one, so it's...
Yeah. So there's
no sequencing to beat the other person. They're going to get a pile, aren't they?
So get a pile, yeah. But that's good anyway. Just, auto killing a model, automatically doing a wound, basically, and healing one back is good. The next one is Run and Charge, which is not great, but on a dragon, which has already got a 14-inch move, that can be the difference between a turn 1 charge and no turn 1 charge.
Yeah, it's good.
And the last one's Null Blood Construct. Which is reroll custom rolls for enemy wizards within 9 of this model, which you can definitely position with a model that fast, but 9's a little bit short, really, for me. But there is some stuff.
I think they're all right. Like I think 2 and 3 are pretty good.
Yeah. The thing is, although we've heard rumors that there's battalions in Age of Sigmar 3, right?
Yeah. Well, they said there's core battalions, so.
Yeah, okay, so you're only getting one of these because the battalions in this book aren't good enough to get you another one. But how them core battalions play out might make you get access to one of these. The second rule, they've got 3 of these, is called Monstrous Might. -1 to wound Terrorgeist, zombie dragons, and vampire monsters in melee, unless you're a monster yourself, which is great.
Yes.
Like all your monsters just -1 to get wounded. Brilliant. Exactly what you want in a monster army. And then the next rule, in your combat phase, pick a friendly, again, zombie dragon, Terrorgeist, or vampire monster to unleash its monstrous power. It doesn't say when in your combat phase, so unless the rules on timing change, just any time you want, depending on how your combat phase is going, counts as being the top of its damage row for the rest of the battle.
Sounds great. Yeah.
For the rest of the phase, I should say. But this is once every combat phase, so your turn and the other person's turn. So you can.
How do their damage charge work? Are there any of there to hit rolls difference as they get worse? Do you know?
I don't think so. They just lose. I mean, the monsters don't have a degradation chart, and the zombie dragons obviously do, but they just lose attacks and speed, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like any, just in the combat phase, you like, you used to need 2s to it, now you need 4s, and you roll your 4 dice, and they're all like 3s, and then you're like, okay, actually, I'll pop this now, and he's at full strength. Now they all hit. Yeah. So it'd be quite cool.
Yeah. Like so. I mean, the good set of things for monsters there, really, and the monsters haven't changed. Zombie dragons have gone down by 5 points, so they're 295 now, and they were already a decently costed unit, I thought. The army just didn't really have a good way to use them, and it sort of does now. And given the
can these have them without people on the back? Yeah.
Oh yeah, they've always been able to.
Really? Yeah.
They went down, zombie dragons went down to 300 points a couple of points updates ago, and there was no real good way to use them or anything like that. And now they've got this dynasty to use them with. I think they're quite they haven't got the biggest damage output in the world, but they've got very good damage output. They've got a D6, so it's spike potential, but it's just a great model, isn't it? 14-inch move, good save, good amount of wounds, can just get around and do stuff. It's a powerful piece to play the game with. And now they have got these abilities on top.
Yeah.
Note that none of them are limited by range to anything either as well. So your stuff can just be everywhere getting these bonuses.
Yeah, that's good. Good.
Command traits and artifacts, they've only got 3 of each of these because they got another table. So I think that's how it works. They get another table, means they get less of the other stuff because there's less book space to fit it in.
Yeah, they're only allowed 2 pages. So
yeah, I think that's how it works. Yeah. So the first one, this is really good. An eye for an eye. If your general takes any wounds, he gets +1 damage characteristic to all his melee weapons till the end of the phase.
Oh yeah, it's boss.
It's really good.
I think that's good. Yeah,
and it works well with the way their abilities work as well.
Yeah,
and the other ones are crap. You're never taking any of the other ones over that. And then they've got artifacts, and these aren't great, but this one, the first one, the one that I like is once a battle, you pick a enemy unit within 6 on a 3-up. It takes D6 mortal wounds. It's not brilliant. Once a battle needs a 3-up, but some spike potential, some mortal wounds.
Yeah, okay.
The other one, like once a battle, reroll wound rolls of 1. Like that's pathetic. Like reroll. Like one of the other artifacts in one of the allegiances we've just talked about was +1 to hit and wound for a combat phase. This one's reroll wound rolls of 1. Like, how do those things balance against each other? And the last one gives you the Beast Lord's ability, where when you charge, you roll a dice for the equal to your charge roll. For every 5 up, the enemy suffers a mortal wound. Once a battle, though.
If they're moving to that once per battle, all in, aren't they? Like,
I don't know. Like
that Lumineth book and this, it's just full of cooldowns. So what's going on? But they seem to be flipping over to
bad ones. Like so many of them are bad, and then some of them are just obvious auto include power level. So it's a bit mad.
You don't think you like it though? Like I like that they. For me, I guess I feel that they can do more powerful artifacts, command traits, etc., etc. They can only be used once per battle, which can sometimes be enough to win a battle, rather than these reading on a 6. You get +1 rend, right? Like,
yeah,
because they're there all battle.
I miss a lot of the. I think there should have been just a generic artifacts table somewhere, right? Like a good one with decent generic artifacts.
I think
no, because one of the things I liked about I can't remember the name of it.
Malign Sorcery.
Malign Sorcery was that that you always had a level playing field of artifacts between armies, right? And whilst there was a lot of them, like the Ethereal Amulet, that just shouldn't have been there, there was plenty, like, you know, the swords that just put one of your weapons to -3 rend. I thought those were like just good baseline artifacts just to give everyone access to.
Like they had to blank about 4 or 5 of them out though before it got to a settled point, and then it just felt like
well, I'm saying they would have to do it right to make it work.
I know, but like, but some of them were okay.
Yeah,
they just couldn't be putting like some armies.
On the
ways it was fine for, but it just hampers them. Like, how'd you release any model when the Ethereal Amulet's around? It's just.
I suppose on the flip side, what they could have done was just made the artifacts in these books decent, so you always had some decent stuff to choose from. That probably would have also worked.
Keep these once per battles, make them a bit better, cooldowns to manage, choice when you do them. Maybe it might be interesting. Now, these aren't that exciting, particularly when you look at like you want to be incentivized to take a battalion here, don't you? You know, because you want an artifact and you want a command trait. You know, you want all that reward for taking one, don't you? And it's maybe not quite there, but
no, it's definitely not. No. Should we do spells quick then?
What do you want to do? Do you want to do spells now? Yeah,
let's do spells. Yeah. So first one is same as you used to. There's a vampire lore and there's a lore for people who aren't vampires, so necromancers basically. Invigorate an aura, casts on an 8, +1 to the roll for every other Soulblight Gravelords hero on the battlefield. You heal. It's the same as the Allegiance ability. Basically, you either heal 3 wounds to a unit, which is decent as a heal, like if you're casting it on a dragon or something.
Yeah.
Or you bring three models back. Any number of units can cast it, but it can only affect a unit once a turn. A fine thing to have access to. I like the heal a lot better than I like the resin models part.
Yeah,
you know, if you're gonna have dragons or monsters
big 3 on a single model, man, sweet.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Lore of the Vampires. Now, Lore of the Vampires was never a very good spell lore, but what it did have, it had Amaranthine Orb, which used to do D6 mortals on a 4-up in a line, and sometimes you used to double cast it and things would just explode. You know, I've killed something with 12 wounds in one cast once. But it was never a great spell, short range, and it needed the 4-up. You had Vile Transference, which used to cast on a 7. It used to do D3 mortals to something and give you D3 back.
Yeah.
And also wasn't the greatest spell in the world, but, you know, the heals from different sources used to stack up, and sometimes you double cast it. And you also used to have Amethystine Pinion.
You know, and you said you had Amaranthine Orb, you had the Vile Transference, you had the Arcane Bolt, you had enough, you know, stuff, damage spells to tip something over there. And like you said, tip back with the heal. Yeah.
And you had Amethystine Pinions, which used to give you +5 inches to your movement. And occasionally with double casting give you +10, and then the gash would just fly off and kill everything. The other 3 spells were crap. And now the other 3 spells are still crap. And those 3 spells have all been changed. So we're going to focus on those 3 again. So Amethystine Pinions now casts on a 5, which is easier than it used to be. I think it used to be a 6. Your hero gets +6 with move characteristic, but can't benefit from it more than once in a phase. So you've got a rule that lets you double cast spells, doesn't do anything to this spell. Very poor rules writing that, in my opinion. Like,
you can target 2 units in, come on.
You can't. No, it targets yourself. It only targets yourself. It's only the caster. Like when you build Gornergy, anti-synergy into something in a book like that, it's just poor, in my opinion. Like, at the very least, it should say, if this spell is double cast, he gains 8 or something. You know, if they don't want to gain too much move, just make it.
Yeah.
So anyway,
something else. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
+6 can't double cast. That's basically,
if it's double cast, it also does some other speed related thing. You know.
Yeah.
You know, he's -1 hit because he's super fast, you know, which they've got in here somewhere else.
If it's double cast, you can choose a target that's not the caster for the second cast.
Sure. Yeah, a million things. Yeah, that's really bad.
Bit of a shame. And again, bit of a poster for why this book's a bit feel bad for a lot of people. I think is you read that and you go, "Oh, come on," you know. But still, from a balance point of view, it's probably slightly better than it used to be because it's one more inch of move when you don't double cast, which you don't most of the time, and it's easier to cast, I think, as well. Vile Transference now casts on a 4 instead of a 7. Very easy to cast. Pick an enemy unit within 6. Roll a number of dice equal to half of the enemy unit's wound characteristic. What does that mean? So if I target a unit of 31 wound men, do I roll 1 dice?
Yeah, sound okay. Now I see why what I said makes no sense.
Yeah, a little bit confusing. Clearly, I think they are both just badly written. I think the other one is supposed to be what we said it was, and I think this one is supposed to be half the wounds of the unit.
Yeah, half the number of models in the unit, or half the wounds on a single model, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For every 6, you heal a wound. Pretty crappy that. Even if it works the way we think it should be, if it's a 30 wound unit, you're rolling 15 dice and you're averaging 2.5 wounds healed. It's just a bit meh. It's got to be within 6 of the caster. You've got to be in melee. It just doesn't.
Without getting a book out now, it's like a unit of 60 goblins wound characteristic is 1, half rounded up is 1. So you'd roll 1 dice.
And on a 6, heal 1 wound.
Yeah.
It's clearly not meant to work like that, obviously. And it does no damage.
Or is it like, I would guess not.
Even if it does work the way we clearly probably should work, with if there's 30 wound, you roll 15 dice, still all it does is heal you for 2.5 wounds on average and do no damage. It's a bad spell now. So that's gone from the vampire arsenal, I think, that one, unfortunately.
You done any rulebook reading on that, or any of that stuff's written?
Yes, and because in this book they write enemy unit's wound characteristic, they don't really explain. I think wound characteristic's been problematic before for some other things, because when you say a unit's wound characteristic, it's not defined what a unit's wound characteristic is. It only defines what a model's wound characteristic is, which is the number on the sheet. That's a model wound characteristic. Yeah. Interesting
one. Yeah, I'll have to get the rule book out of a little read.
I'm sure it'll be FAQ'd to be clarified anyway. Number 6 is Amaranthine Orb. This is just a side change, this one. So it's the same as it used to be you pick a point 9 inches, every model gets hit. Death units aren't affected by it anymore. Used to affect your own units, which is good. For every unit passed across on a 2-up, it takes D3 mortal wounds. It's a good spell.
Yeah.
It used to be on a 4-up, do D6 mortal wounds, so it now is a better spell, I would say. It also used to cast on a 7, now it casts on a 6, and it doesn't affect your own units. So vampires now basically amethystine pinions on the one that you want to get into combat, Amaranthine Orb on the one that you think is going to be living for a long time, casting that every turn while it's in melee, chucking mortal wounds out, basically.
Yeah, the double tap must be better than the old double tap consistency wise, right? It hasn't got the spike potential, but it must be better,
the spike potential wasn't good. Yeah, consistency is much better than spike potential generally in this game.
Yeah.
Well, I will miss when you roll a 4 on every and you do buckets of mortal wounds. So Arcus has just said, feels like they were afraid to let vampires be both good at fighting and have good spells. I think that's correct, and they were too afraid to let them be good at either, unfortunately. But, we get to that when we get to the War Scrolls. Then we got Lord of the Death Mages, so this is Mortarks, Nagash, and Necromancers. Nerfed spells, unfortunately, again.
So it didn't read that bad to me, so go on, take me through the details.
Well, they're not that bad, but they are nerfed. Overwhelming Dread, 18-inch range, casts on a 5, -1 to hit for the unit. Used to be -1 to hit in Bravery. Don't know why there's a need to take that off. Fine spell. Right?
Okay,
and if you leave the Bravery stuff in, it does actually let you stack with the other Bravery stuff in the book, which they've now got.
Sure.
Second spell, which was their best spell, Fade and Vigor. Unit within 18 inches, -1 to its attacks characteristic, which has always been amazing. It used to be a -1 to your attacks characteristic, and you can only charge 18 inches. Apologies for my computer noises. And you can only charge D6 inches, I should say.
Yeah, okay, big nerf, fair enough. Big nerf.
Yeah,
I remember
big
now.
nerf from what it used to do, but still a powerful debuff.
Yes,
Again,
yes.
Don't really see the need to nerf it like that though.
A lot of debuffs in this book. There's all the there's -1 to wound debuffs. Was in you could have it on a single character. You could have it on within 6, couldn't you? There's quite a lot of it in the army.
Yeah. And then the other spell that was always one of my favorites that you never saw much, but I've cast it so many times. I told people what it did. Decrepify. Enemy hero within 18 inches of the caster, -1 to wound and -1 to the damage characteristic on all of its weapons. It just uses heroes.
Was this monster, Ian?
No, it was always. Oh, it's not monsters anymore. Yeah, it used to be hero or monster. Yeah, it's just hero. That's not a big change, I guess. But yeah, I mean, most things that you're going to be casting this on are heroes. I don't think I've ever cast this on a monster that wasn't a hero.
Yeah.
But yeah, -1 to the damage characteristic and -1 to wound. Like, you just turn off an enemy model.
It's good.
It's so good. The problem nowadays is who's going to carry. That was always like the third spell after Overwhelming Dread and Decrepify. And now that Nagash isn't going to be in the army very much, who's going to really carry that? I don't know. We'll see. That's basically the 3 spells you're going to take out of that lore. So they are good spells still. But they've been nerfed for seemingly no reason. I don't think that it was necessary to nerf them there. But yeah, they are good spells for sure.
Yeah, for sure, I agree.
Definitely. And that's all the allegiance abilities and spells. So should we see what they go on?
Yeah, so we're going to start looking at some more scrolls now.
Yeah. So some of these are going to go through because, again, some of these are going to go through very fast because they've not changed from their old incarnations much. And I'm just going to give you a little verdict on whether they're any good or not. So Nagash is the same as he is in the OBR book. Incidentally, if he's in your army, he counts as the general in addition to any other general that you might have as well, which I find is like quite an interesting new way of doing those rules.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, it gets around that like general thing, doesn't it? But he is 975 points. So he's, after being completely unplayable at 880, they've made him 975. I don't really know what that's about.
There's more going on there than we know about, I imagine, right? Like, I don't understand that either. So
maybe they just don't want anyone to ever put him on the board again. Like,
that sounds interesting.
I mean, they've done that with models before, right? They've nerfed models to the point where they're unplayable in competitive play. They've done it a lot with Forge World models. They've done it a lot with things like Grimghast. Like they've been nerfed to the point where you can't use them anymore. I don't know whether that's just a signal they don't want Nagash on the board anymore because, he died in the storyline. Spoilers, sorry, but I don't know. I mean, he dies all the time, so it's barely a spoiler.
So man's constantly dead.
Yeah, less said about that, the better. Do we think he's going to be 975 in OBR as well? Interesting question. It's supposed to be the same war scroll. There's actually a little bit about him in the allegiance abilities, where he gains the right trait or whatever. So I don't know. Interesting. Maybe that's a common nerf to him, but he's not played in OBR anymore either. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see, I guess. Manfred. So Manfred has gone up to 380 points, right? So after a few years of these Mortarks, which were overpriced, going down like by points here and there, he's gone back up to 380. I don't know whether this is part of what seems to be the new pricing of heroes all going up a bit.
Yeah, they
like
all have,
we saw in the Slaanesh book and this, but he's not really changed significantly enough in his stats, at least, to warrant going up to 380 points. He's still, and the same problem Mortarks have had, he's still like a model with, a small amount of wounds that costs an awful lot of points that can just be shot off the board. But he has been buffed a bit.
Yeah.
So he's got 12 wounds now instead of 11. He's got a 3-up save now instead of a 4. He could have had these buffs and still stayed at his old points value, and he'd still only just be like, all right. I don't think his weapons have changed, really. The main thing that has changed is his is Mortarch of Night ability. What this does now, at the start of the combat phase, if he's within 3 of any enemy units, take him off the board and set him up anywhere you want. We're in, outside of 9.
Okay.
That's quite a good ability, that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
From a power point of view, there's just so many tricks you can pull with that competitively, right? Mortarch comes on behind the enemy army, goes and kills a unit, steals an objective. Obviously it means people can't kill him in melee. He's not the easiest thing to kill. So he ignores the first wound or mortal wound in every phase as well. So he's not the easiest thing to kill with shooting. You can't really plink him to death. He is still a 380.12 wound model though, which is not great. So yeah, he's all right. He's probably a bit too expensive for what he does, but the trickiness of being able to charge, like these are fast. He moves 16-inch Mortarchs as well. Being able to charge an enemy unit and then use that as a way to just teleport somewhere else on the battlefield for free is quite a powerful thing to do.
Yeah, I agree.
So interesting piece. I don't really know where he fits. He's Legion of Night as well, obviously. So if you're not playing Legion of Night, which you aren't because it's bad compared to the other ones, he's not going to get any allegiance abilities either, which is a little negative. But I'm sure he's playable just because of that teleport, because teleport's a good shocker. Neferata, so she's gone up to 365 points. She's had the same treatment, +1 wound, an extra save. So she's a bit tougher now. She's still got the same command ability she used to have, except it is only once a turn now. So -1 to hit, bubble of 12. And she's still got the spell.
That was a big part of her though. That changing's pretty major, right? There was always
you shouldn't be able to spam -1 to hit though, right?
No, I agree, but
and if the next edition of Age of Sigmar goes to the same as 40k, where you're capped on a -1 to hit buffs, which I think is generally a good change, it won't make much difference. And she can also make something immune to rend as well, and she's got a 3-up save now, so 3-up unrendable save, decent.
Nice.
And outside of that, she does some damage in combat, nowhere near enough for her points, and she's a double caster. And she can stab people and maybe auto kill them sometimes. So I don't think she does enough for 365 points. But she is probably better than she used to be. They could have kept the points values on these and buffed them, because they never saw play realistically outside of odd people who just like using the models, really. Or a very brief period where everyone spammed Neferata.
Yeah, and Manfred's just had like that. He's got a couple of strong abilities. He's seen a little bit of play just as like a solid buff piece. But yeah, you're right. They never seen enough, did they? Bar Arcan, right? So
Bar Arcan, and even my opinion on him. Anyone who's listened to us for a long time will know my opinion on him was never that great. Anyway, he was just nothing else to take. Jonas has just said the new spell only ignores negative modifiers on saves, which it does. He's right, which is interesting, because if you stick something in a wood and then cast that. Say a wood. I've been playing a lot of Saga. Stick stuff in cover and cast that. That's a good thing.
Oh, that's good. That is good. Good catch.
Yeah. Prince Vordry. So he saw quite a lot of play, Prince Vordry, in different kinds of armies, and he's basically stayed the same. He's got, he picks a hero in the hero phase other than himself, and it can fight, which is a powerful ability. Unfortunately, very difficult to find anything to use it on in this army. And in the builds you try to build with him, if you're taking him on like some zombie dragons or whatever, so, another vampire lord on a zombie dragon, it doesn't leave you many points for the rest of the army. But you can definitely make use of that. His spell that he casts on himself is really good. The main thing that's changed on these vampire lords on zombie dragons is their bloodlines. If you look at his stats there, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, 2 rend, 2 damage. When he charges, that gets +2 damage and an extra rend. So that's 16 points of rend, 3 damage, potentially on 2s and 2s when he charges, which is pretty naughty. Like,
that is pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that for all of them?
The normal zombie dragons got that as well with the riders. Yeah, the rider got that, but they've only got 3 attacks and Ren 1 base. Prince Vordry is hardcore like now. And what you got to remember as well is because he's Castelli in his traits, if he's in the Castelli dynasty, if he kills a hero or monster, which he can, he flies, he can go where he wants, he's got the damage to do it, then he gets +1 damage. And those things affect the mounts as well. They don't just affect the rider. Actually, that one might say doesn't affect mounts. I've just remembered reading that now. Yeah, that one doesn't affect mounts, but that means his lance is going to be like 20 damage at Ren 3 when he charges. So,
gosh,
he's
choppy, and he is choppy.
He is choppy, and he's not really. He's gone up to 455, which I do think in modern Age of Sigmar is very expensive. Like
how many points are you getting in?
455. Like back in the day when you paid 440 for a Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, it was a great model. 2 years ago in Age of Sigmar. But now what you get for 440 points and the way the meta works against those models, they're not quite good enough anymore. You look at what you get in a Gargant for 490, 35 wounds and all that damage and all of abilities, immune to insta kills and everything. 455, even though he's very choppy, it's a big ask for what he does, especially since his command ability only works on other people. And to get the most out of that, you really want another Vampire Lord on a Zombie Dragon.
Yeah,
sort of to go with it, maybe. But he's decent. Lots of people own this model painted already.
Yeah.
He's one of the obvious leaders in the Castelli Dynasty armies as well. So
the Castelli is the Blood Knight one, right? Yeah,
the Blood Knight one. Yeah. So decent.
Yes, that is.
Yeah,
that lance is naughty. Like,
don't forget as well when you pop that command trait we were talking about as well, the Rousing Commander one. All those damages go up by 1 as well.
Yeah.
So so you get a lot of damage out of.
He kills some stuff in.
Yeah. So next we get into so there's a few different bits here. Let's go to Prince Duval. So this is one of the new vampire guys on foot.
This is the one from the little Diachasm box set, right?
Yeah. So 5 wounds and a 3-up save, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, run 1 Ren 2 damage. But he's got an interesting spell. Pick an enemy unit within 6 +1 to hit it with everyone until next turn, which is a decent spell. But the Crimson Court are, predictably not great.
How many points did they do these for, Ian?
They're 200 or something like that. Let me find them. Yeah, 200 points. Yeah. So you get a vampire hero with a decent spell. He doesn't have a trait on him, so he can be from any dynasty. But yeah, then you're not taking them for 200 points, basically.
So no start. I was wondering what they were going to do with this lot.
Because it's a most incredible set of models, right?
Unreal. Like, that's one of the best sellers I've had.
I was hoping, in the Slaanesh one, they had the one model in the Slaanesh one, like the Beastman Slaanesh, who had like crazy damage stats for it. Like that unit is almost playable, the Slaanesh one, just because of that one model having mad stats. I
think that unit's playable. Like, if the points, because they're 120 and just some of the maths when you write armies, I think that army does that unit can see play. And you've just seen the Hag one be completely playable as well. So I was wondering what direction we're going to take these.
Yeah, I was hoping the guy would have mad stats. The big butch vampire would have some mad damage stats again, and you'd get a guy with a caster casting a spell, 150 points. You'd play that, but no, not to be.
I actually thought it might be a lot more. I thought it might be like one of these, super 400 point units. It's like a bunch of vampires
style.
Yeah, well, I mean, like loads of them.
That brings us on to a good point, right? The way this book's set up is like a bunch of chaff and vampires killing everything. And I was really excited about this book because that's how I played Warhammer Fantasy, 25 years ago. You had a block of 40 skeletons or whatever, and a vampire with a blade of leaping gold in the front row or whatever it was. The skeletons did nothing. The vampire mare did everything. He was strength 7, toughness 6, really hard to kill. They were genuine monsters. And I thought they were going to try and take this book back to that. And I think they have tracked, because some of the things when you lead the allegiance abilities, it's like the skeletons distract everything while the vampires kill the enemy army sort of thing. But they just haven't given them the stats to do it. And I do think they've thought about fluff-wise going in that direction. The stats just don't bear that out, which is a shame, because I would have loved to have seen these foot heroes be 10 attacks, 2s and 3s, 2 rend, 2 damage, and have a really unique Sigmar army where the little foot heroes actually murder everything and everything else is just chaff.
Yeah, I think
bit of a shame.
Vortride's pretty choppy. Like, I can't stop thinking about how much damage that guy could do.
He's very choppy, isn't he? I feel like I say bit of a shame about a lot of their book releases recently, which is in itself a bit of a shame. Lauka Vi, the Mother of Nightmares. So this is the special character version of the new model. That's a bit more mighty. So she is 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 rend, 2 damage, and then 3 attacks with a dragon bite equivalent, but only 1 rend, and then d6 4s and 4s, 1 damage. So her attack profile is nothing special. 11 wounds and a 3-up save, nothing special. 4 hair points, which is 285. Yeah, 285 points.
Okay.
She does a little bit of damage. I think her stats could have stood to being a bit better. When you make a charge move where you roll a dice for the charge roll, every 5 the enemy takes a mortal wound, which is an okay ability, as we know from Beast Lords.
Yeah, better than okay. Pretty good, that.
And then Nightmare Miasma, this is the important thing. When enemy unit is within 3 inches of any model with disability, it gets -1 rend, not just against this unit, but against all units. And if you remember that their dynasty gives you -1 to wound these as well, right? So you -1 to wound them and -1 rend. And this has got a 3-up save. So
bringing in Necromancy, Immortark, whatever, get all those other debuffs. The army's full of it.
Yeah. So for 285 points, not super survivable, not super choppy, but a walking -1 rend, a flying -1 rend debuff. It's pretty decent.
Looks good.
End of the combat phase, you kill any models, you get D3 wounds back, so that helps with that as well. And then a spell is cast on an 8. All charge rolls made by enemy units within 12 are halved until your next hero phase. Generally quite good, because we all know that you fail your auto 3 sometimes. Having to roll a 6+ to charge is quite a good debuff. And it doesn't target anything, so Teclis can't bounce it back. It's a decent spell. Bit hard to cast.
One cast as well.
But only a 1 caster. That was the thing that surprised me most. I was like, she's 285 points. She's not amazing at anything. She's only a 1 caster.
And you're desperate to cast that. You're desperate to cast all the spells you talked about in the Vampire Lore as well. You might want to heal someone for 3, with these big vampire bodies on the board.
Yeah, exactly.
She's not helping that plan one bit.
And their command ability is good. And then pick an enemy unit on the battlefield, no range, until your next hero phase, +1 to hit with Soulblight Gravelords monsters.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's good.
I like her.
I'm going.
She had 2 casts.
I'm just going back to the rule I purposely skipped over, though.
Okay.
Start your hero phase, you roll a dice. If the roll is equal to or less than the current battle round, this model can run in charge but can't use its command abilities. How bad is that? If you're going to take my command ability off me, which is one of the 2 main reasons to take this model, can you at least give me something better than run in charge? If it's something I can't control as well. And it's something...
roll it.
Yeah, you have to roll it, yeah.
Oh, that's awful.
It's terrible, isn't it? Absolutely awful.
What is that about?
So, you have to, when you take this model, you have to consider a command ability blank and assume that sometimes you're going to be able to use it. So, good chance. On turn 2, when you're going to be going into combat, turn 3, when you want to be using this, good chance at least one of them turns, maybe 2 if you're unlucky, you just can't use a command ability. So... I still think what you're about to say. I still think for 285 points, if you're playing Avengorii, she just goes in. Because the chance at using that command ability The fact that she's a caster, the fact that she gives that -1 rend debuff on a stick, the fact that she does a little bit of damage is good. But like 285 points, they could have not stopped you using your command ability and made her a double caster. Give her two rend on a big 3 attack D6 thing because she's a big scary monster. And 285, she'd still be just like, yeah, I can use her. Like, it's just, why come up with this new cool model and not make it good? Like, it doesn't have to be bent. It doesn't have to be incredible. Just make it good so we want to make armies.
So she's meant to, like, lose control of herself, isn't she, is what they're going for there, aren't they?
There's a model in the book with it later. And, I'm down with that mechanic.
Yeah.
But make it cost something appropriate to not having a command ability, or make it like roll a dice every turn. On a 1, she loses control. Not like on a 2 or a 3 in the most critical turns of the game.
Yeah.
Like, come on. It's so frustrating. Like reading these war scrolls. She's going to go in your army anyway if you're playing Avengorii. She is good. She just could have been a bit better without being broken. Or she could have just been cheaper. She could have probably been 240 points or something. Then there's the non-name.
I guess you can, like, yeah.
I
suppose you can not have monsters in your army and stuff. I don't know. Or your monsters get on with it early when it's up, turn 1.
See, I also think, the -1 to be wounded thing, they do this. This is one of the things that I think unbalances Age of Sigmar armies when they write them. My viewpoint. Sometimes they stat models and cost them appropriately, and you get your allegiance abilities on top. Sometimes they try to cost models as if they've got the allegiance abilities. And it feels like she's costed like she's got a rule that says -1 to wound her in combat. Like, because you're always going to have that in Avengorii, and it's like she's overcosted, which means that you're not actually getting the benefits of your allegiance ability compared to, like...
But that's like an artifact that we're taking off you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just not... It's just a poorly designed and balanced model, but it is still going to go in every Avengorii army, I think. So the next guy is the non-named version.
It's close though. That's close. It's annoying that I don't like that lose to command tree thing's a little bit annoying, and I don't like the 1 cast. It's just you want it to be able to, put her in your army, get her, do a war short spell, do some of these other spells that aren't that good. Just like I just need to get my movement buff off somewhere, please.
Yeah, you just want to get little bits of value off her, like with these buff characters. So the Avengorii Lord is basically the same, the same basic model. So he hasn't got the charge mortals, but he's got the miasma rule, which is good. He heals himself when he wounds. His attack profile is identical. He's got 1 less wound. His command ability is a bit different. At the end of the combat phase, every Soulblight Gravelords unit that destroyed any enemy units heals D6 wounds. That's quite good, especially because you're going to have a lot of monsters in this army. It's got no range, and you don't have to roll for it. And it does actually affect things that aren't monsters, although there's not many of them that would benefit from a D6 wound heal. It can't bring models back. It spells difference as well. Enemy unit within 12 inches visible, you get +1 to wound for the whole army against that unit. But it's still got the thing where he loses his command ability though as well. So I read this after her and I was like, oh, okay, maybe this one's better because it's going to be a lot cheaper. It's 5 points cheaper. He's 280.
Maybe 5, yeah.
So she is the only. When I was writing lists with this though, you don't, because you're taking a lot of zombie dragons, you don't always have heroes to stick your artifacts on. And I think there's a case for this guy to replace her just because he gets to carry the command traits and artifacts and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just a little bit disappointing them, particularly any of gaining an extra spell, not losing your command ability or not losing it quite so easily, maybe just being a bit better in combat. Like it's a big monster. It's a big giant monster sitting on a thing. It's got 3 attacks with D6 damage, 1 rend, 4s and 3s. Like everything in the Lumineth book hits on 2s and 3s. Yeah. Like give these monsters, make them better. 4s and 3s are such a bad combat stat line. Like, or if you're going to give it 4s and 3s, give it more attacks or more rend or something to make them more consistent. So, bit disappointed in them War Scrolls, to be honest. But I still think they are playable.
Oh, that's good. Good. Sorry, anyone was watching as well. I haven't got the fancy War Scrolls I normally do from getting from Australia. I didn't have time this morning, I'm afraid. But yeah,
Will everyone live? Right. Yeah. Bella Dama Volga. Let's talk about her next. So she is the Russian lady with the wolf feet sitting side saddle on the wolf.
Love this model.
Yeah, decent model. Now she's another buff piece. You know, as you'd expect from like the matron of the family or whatever. She's 9 wounds and a 4-up save. She moves 10. So she does move faster than a wolf. She's got irrelevant combat stats. Main thing about this model is she's 200 points. This was the point in the book where I started looking at the points first after being disappointed with the other 2 War Scrolls. So 200 points, 9 wounds and a 4-up save. She is a double caster.
Nice.
Right, so we're starting off well. She's got 2 spells. This one's quite good. Lycan Curse, 18-inch range, casts on a 7, D3 mortal wounds. For every model that dies, you can add a unit of direwolves to your army with a number of models equal to the number of models that you killed. So even adding a unit of direwolves of 1 direwolf is quite powerful in Age of Sigmar. Right. You set it up within 3 of the slain models unit as well. Right, so you then obviously you retreat it out of combat straight away, and you know maybe you just stick it in front of the enemy unit, you know, so they have to move around it or charge it next turn. Like in a big block unit, particularly if something's strung out and you just go there's a direwolf in the middle of your unit, they like lose their movement phase. Basically, it's so powerful even if it's only 1. Or you know, if you get 3, they can just run off to some side, grab an object, like whatever. It's a good spell.
Oh, really block you. 3 of them.
Yeah, or really block you. Yeah, like 3 long base models like in front of some units. Yeah, it's a good spell. And then Under a Killing Moon, casts on a 6, and it gives her a 12-inch aura of whenever any Soulblight Gravelords unit rolls a 6 to hit twice. So yeah, double caster.
Great. Then didn't know her points, so really good.
Yeah, it's her points that make it, isn't it? Obviously.
Yeah.
And then a command ability, Pack Alpha. Pick a friendly unit of direwolves, hold they were in 12th. It can fight and pile in from 6 instead of 3. Would be a great ability if direwolves like did anything in combat. Bit of a shame that ability. It's like it's cool, but it only works on direwolves. Yeah. So you know, maybe not so much.
I like her.
But yeah, and she's also got on top of that as well. Probably should have done this bit first. +1 to cast Dispel and Unbind. And before she takes a wound or mortal wound on a 3-up, you can bounce it to some direwolves. So she's hard to kill. She's only 200 points. She's a double caster. She rerolls all her cast rolls. Don't forget if you're playing Avengorii Dynasty as well. So all this stuff is going on. And she's decent support model. Very, very playable.
Really, brilliant. Like super key. Proactive model, does some cool stuff with the wolves. That wolf thing's brilliant, you know. Like you talk about move blocker, but like let's say unit sentinels, you get them on, you know. You kill a couple, there's a wolf or 2 there that they're probably not going to kill those wolves in combat themselves. So
you're gonna lose around the shooting.
Really cool.
Yeah, really good spell. So yeah, she's decent. Definitely super playable.
I like her.
Yeah. So then we've got Lady Annika the Thurston Blade. Don't know what this model is all about.
Right. Okay.
So you roll a and she is 110 points. She's got a 4-up. Feel no pain.
How many points did you say she was? Sorry,
she's 110.
Okay.
She's got a 4-up. Feel no pain, which is good. At the end of a phase, if she kills any model, she heals back to full, which is good. But she's got 4 attacks, 2s and 3s, 1 rend, D3 damage. Like, pointless model. And such a good model as well. Like, this model is like classic vampire awesomeness for me, this model. But she just doesn't do anything. Like,
what is that model's role? What I don't know. What have you tried to do with that?
Again, if they'd given her 8 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 rend, D3 damage for 110 points, you'd still be looking at her going, she moves 6. Who cares about her? So, I again say this all the time. These models are just never getting played. It doesn't do anything. It does not affect the game. It's over 5% of your entire army. It doesn't affect the game. Like, this needed another entire pile of abilities on it or something. Why doesn't, make her move 10? At least let her go and kill tiny units on the edge of the board or try to assassinate heroes. Make her move and fly. Let her move through other units. Like, give her a role. Make her do something. She doesn't.
Why no wizard?
Bad design. Not a wizard, yeah.
Even if it was a wizard to carry one of your spells, then that might have been okay because she...
Yeah, 6 wounds.
She doesn't die, right? Like,
yeah. She's got a good save, yeah.
She's got a good save. She's got a good after save. She heals herself to full when she's in a scrap. So, yeah, bar fighting real, you have to commit something to kill her, right?
Yeah.
So...
her flavour is she's the thirsting blade. She goes and murders people in a sanguine blare or whatever. So, make her a caster and give her a spell that lets her do that, like a teleport or something like every other army in the game gets. Or just give her the stats to let her do the thing that her fluff says. What a waste of an incredible model that is.
Yeah, damage is too low, right? What's she going to do? Is she going to get any bonuses? Is she going to get like the extra damage, the double damage, point of damage, all that stuff?
No, she's Avengorii Dynasty, so she gets to re-roll a spell that she can't cast. Yeah, I bet we just move on because otherwise we just want to continue.
It's interesting sometimes. You look at someone like, because I'm looking at a hot new model as well, and thinking that there's not really anything going on with it.
No, that's one of my favorite models from the release. That when she was spoiled a while ago as well. she's very good.
Cool. So, Rat Prince.
Yeah, so crits are the Rat Prince. Again, same stat line, 4 attacks, 3 injuries, 1 rend, 3 damage. 95 points, which is approaching. We're coming down now. The points you might actually spend on a model that does this. You get down another 30, you're there. You get -1. You get -1 to hit him in combat. All right, sure. But his ability is after he dies. At the end of your moving phase, you roll a dice. On a 4+, you set up a new model identical to the one that was slain and add it to your army.
Okay.
So, weird thing about this is it doesn't say like, it says at the end of your movement phase. It doesn't say at the end of the next movement phase. So, because it's worded poorly, when he dies, you set up a new one, but you keep rolling every turn. After one of them's died, you keep rolling every turn for that one. So,
sure
in theory, you went, but yes, exactly, sure you do. Firstly, there's no way that's going to happen. But even if it did work like that, right?
So what?
It's not going to happen till turn 2. Then you're rolling on a 4+. If you end the battle with 7 of these, who cares? It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, not me.
but that's just another testament to how bad these heroes are. For 95 points, a model with that stat line, if you got 7 of them, you'd still be going, I'm not really sure I want that in my army. So I just don't know what they think with a page of models like this. I don't know why they bother sculpting the model, because we know, again, as being a shop, people don't really buy these models either, is the other thing to point out. Like the Slanesh, never really talked about this, but the Slanesh release was one of the worst releases I've ever seen from Games Workshop from a sales point of view. We sold we sold almost 0 of those models.
Yeah, people took the books, they took the dice, but they weren't interested in stuff like
0. And narrative or not, people say, oh, people buy them, blah blah blah. People want their models to do stuff in games no matter what level of the game you play at, casual or otherwise. You want your cool model you've bought and painted, spent money on, especially the price Games Workshop charge. You want the models to do cool stuff and you put them on the battlefield. It's not about winning, not about competitiveness or power. You just want your models to do stuff. And really putting time into, making these models a reality and giving them war scrolls like this is just pathetic, to be honest with you. And I think it's I actually think it's quite rude to your customers as well. I think it's rude to your customers who are loyal followers of your company into your games, looking really. You only get a release once every couple of years for your favorite army. You're looking for these models to come out. You're excited about it, and then this happens. You're like, what have I even waited for? Like,
Yeah, because for me, it's not that these are good or bad. It's that they've not done anything with them.
It's that they're dull as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like if they had some like really interesting stuff and they still weren't good, cool. But it's hard when you think, oh, right, they haven't really, what effort have they made with that? Like I read that one over so many times again, the lady one, because like this fits all normal, tinfoil hat way of doing business, right? Nice new model. Let's move these, give them some rules, and it's not here with these, and it was with the Slanesh.
Again, same thing. You don't have to make them super S tier 1 bent, but give her a spell or give her better stats. Give her 7 attacks, 10 move, and a 3-up save. You still never see her competitively, but at least when you played her, you'd feel like you were playing like an awesome vampire running around murdering people.
Yeah,
just like there's just no effort. It's just poor. Like, I'm sorry to be negative, but it's for everyone watching. But yeah, it's just poor. Like, do more, do better. Give your models some rules. Speaking of models with rules, let's go to Radikar the Wolf because he's got some.
Sound okay. I'll get him up now.
So now we're into the part where we are looking at Curse City models.
All right,
the Curse City models are a little bit weird. So you pay 755 points, which is a lot of points, and you get all of them, right? So you get Gorslav the Gravekeeper, Radukar the Wolf, Torgilius the Chamberlain, Watch Captain Halgrim. So four vampire characters. They're all Virkos. Then you get 2 Kosagi Night Guard, which are the ogres. You get 1 Varg Skier, which is a Vargulf-like model. And you get 3 Virkos Bloodborne. So you get like a little monster, 2 small units, and 4 heroes for 755 points.
What are these? Sorry, like, are these leaders taking up leader slots?
They are. So you just buy them as they're all separate in game terms, but yes, 4 of them are leaders. Yeah, the 4 heroes are 4 leaders.
No. Did he take up leader slots?
Yes, they do. Yeah, the leaders on the points values. So it's 4 leaders. Okay. Yeah. So 4 leaders and then 3, non-units basically. So 755 points means you have to you average these out. So we'll do that now. So Radikar the Wolf, again, basic bitch combat vampire, right? Normal stats, 7 wounds, 4 save, whatever. Command abilities is if he's made a charge, you get +1 attack for all Soulblight Gravelord units. We're in 18 of them, which is decent. Which is decent. Yeah. And then he's got some vampire rules that don't really matter. He heals like D3 wounds like most vampires do. So he's going to be able to charge into the corner of a unit to trigger his buff, right? Command ability. I think it could have probably stood to not need a command point spent on it, given you've got a charge with it. It could have probably just been his ability.
Man's slow as well.
He's not exactly fast either. But he can bounce wounds to Kosagi Night Guard, which are the ogres, on a 2-up as well. So decent ability. And then we got Gorslav the Gravekeeper. This is the best one of the bunch, really.
Right. Okay.
So he can bounce wounds to friendly dead walkers on a 4-up. He's got 7 wounds. So this is the guy with the shovel, the really awesome model from Curse City.
Oh yeah. I'm not into that model really, but
it's very Resident Evil. Like,
he's got a look, Annie.
Yeah, 7 wounds and he bounces wounds, so he's not really dying. Command ability at the end of your movement phase, you pick a destroyed Deadwalkers unit, and you bring it back within 9 of them. So he's basically got like endless legions for zombies.
Right. Okay.
Only difference is you can't bring 1 unit back more than once. But yeah, so he would have been a really good model if you didn't have to take him as part of this 755 point set. He would have been quite powerful.
Okay, but So we're looking at it as a whole picture. This 755 points, right? That other guy was all right. This guy's all right.
Okay. Yeah.
No wizards yet.
Chamberlain. Yeah. Four up after save. 6 wounds. No damage or anything like that. Like literally no damage in combat. You on a 4-up, you get a command point if he's winning 3 of Radakar every turn, so they move around like a little court. And he's a wizard, so he casts a spell, 18-inch range, -1 to hit. So he's got a good spell. So he's a sound caster. He's a 120-point model, probably in new money. In fact, probably even better because having that save on your wizards is what you want, and he's giving you a command point. So 120, 140-point model, maybe that guy.
All right.
So I think now we'd probably pay 140 for Gorslav. We'll probably pay 140 for him. We'll probably pay 140 for Radakar as well in new money.
And they'd be worth it. Like the whole unit back command ability is a real one.
Yeah.
And the +1 attack one is a real one as well. We're not talking shard speakers and that here, which are 150 with fringe things, yeah. And I think you costed them cheap, but they're well worth whatever. They're worth buying. Like as a support hero
as well. The first one with that charge command ability is also a caster. He just doesn't get any war scroll spells, but that's okay because
is he going to get one off the book? Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to get one, because he's a vampire and he gets real cast. So that's 3 140-point models, maybe a little bit, in a great book they'd be less, but you probably maybe pay a little bit more than that even. So 420 points easy with them 3 models now.
Win a lot of them 7 wounds as well.
Yeah, they're tougher to kill than the average models, yeah.
Yeah.
But still, you do get models like that for 120, 140 in other books as well. So I'm talking if we think they're good and really aggressively costed.
I'm building it up. I'm leaning that way. What you're saying is good to me right now. I'm seeing them 7 wounds, which is great. For this. We'll get rid of that command ability now. That's not happening like it does to other characters like this. So
yeah. So watch Captain Halgrim, the last character. Again, crappy in combat, 5 wounds, does immortals on a 6 in combat, he's got 3 attacks, doesn't matter. His command ability is you pick 3 friendly death rattle units, holy or an 18 of them. And until the end of the phase, if they don't run, when you move them, they get an extra 4 inches of move as a command point. Now, that's a weird ability because why wouldn't you just want to auto 6 their run? It affects 3 of them. But the likelihood that you're going to want 3 death rattle units after spending 755 points on this gang of stuff is very low. So he's really bad. So he really brings the value down.
No wizard.
Not a wizard. No, he literally does nothing. He's almost a blank. You could say he's worth 50 points, but you'd never buy him anyway, right? So you would never use him. The only thing he's good for is being a hero. So what would you value that model at? If models were priced properly in Age of Sigmar, what would you value him at? Like 30 points, 20 points, something like that. He's a walking turns on your deathless minions bubble. That's all he does, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Let's say he's worth 20 points, so we're at like 4.
Is he a vampire? Yeah.
He is a vampire. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So all right. Fine. Let's move on. I don't want to get too much yet.
So that's all. The hero
doing things. He increases the likelihood of casting that heal spell. He does all the things you've mentioned as well. So yeah. Okay.
So maybe on the outside, those heroes are worth 500 points on the outside, maybe 450 to 500 in the 4 heroes. So now we're going to look at the little units that come with it.
Are these them here? I've got the right ones, have they?
Yeah. So we got the Varg skier. So you just get one of these. It's a little monster. 8 wounds, charges 3d6, got a 5 up after save, little bit of damage in combat. Again, this is not the type of unit you would ever take on purpose in Age of Sigmar. But if you were forced to take it, if it was going to be well costed, what would you pay for? You probably maybe pay like 70 points for that, I guess.
Come on, lads, you're not getting that for that. He's but
you wouldn't. But what I'm saying is, the way these units are costing Age of Sigmar, you never buy them, right? So I'm trying to value this.
You've got. I don't know where your where these numbers are adding up to yet. You've got a number in mind, and let's see where you go with that. Yeah, that model's it's a 120 point model. Okay.
Yeah, in normal terms, yes, but you would never buy that model for 120 points. Yeah. So I'm trying to work out what we would value these at to make 755 a thing we would like. So 8 wounds, 10 points a wound, let's say. Right, 80 point model. It's got a little bit more damage than your average 80 points worth of stuff because it's got rend and a hit on a 3. So maybe, but it's only one model for objectives, and that's all we really care about right at this point. So it's 80, 90 points, maybe something like that. Increases your drops by 1 notably.
Okay.
Right, so we're at end of 500. Kasagi Night Guard, you get 2 of these. Again, 4 wound model. 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 rend, 2 damage. You get +1 to its attacks when it's near Radukar the Wolf, which you want them to be because they bodyguard him as well. And it's got a 5-up after save. Again, the other thing you got to remember is all these 5-up after saves mean that you don't get your Deathless Minions 6-up after save. Yeah. Poor synergy. I mean, you probably would pay 80 points for that unit just because of its abilities. If I could buy them for 80 points to bodyguard necromancers and stuff, I probably would. But
all right, is that the end of it?
So and then there's one more. So we're like mid 600s. Virkos Bloodborne.
Okay.
Yeah. So these are actually all right. You get 3 of these. They're 3 wounds each. They move 10, and each one has got 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 rend, D3 damage. So they're like mini vampires, and they got a 5-up after save. So someone's mentioned before, it's a shame you can't buy these in a unit because they're actually quite cool. They're like a little unit of like vampire thralls, move 10 inches, decent combat stats. That's a usable unit. You could use that to go and flank with or whatever. You could use it to, assassinate stuff. Or
how many of those, sorry, Ian?
You get 3.
In a unit of 3?
Yeah, in 1 unit of 3, yeah. So
okay, all right.
So I think on the outside,
they're good.
If they are good, yeah, they are good. Yeah.
They move really far. They got good wound. We haven't got a points value on them, but it was you said you're at 600 cheap, so let's say they're 100. Then they're.
So we've come to about 700 points, but with a bunch of units that we would never ordinarily buy on Age of Sigmar.
So, but costed them in our heads cheap.
Cost maybe a little bit. I don't think we've
cheap compared to how the Age of Sigmar game designers.
Yeah, we've maybe costed the heroes a bit cheap. So let's say we costed them under by 20. Maybe it comes to 760, but 300 points of that is on units we would never buy in competitive Age of Sigmar. I can't see this being playable. Therefore. Basically, I think there is good stuff in there, like particularly the first 3 heroes, all very playable. If you could buy them on their own, like at 160 or something, particularly like Radukar, you would take decent command ability, casts a spell, you'd take him as a vampire, fits into your wanting more heroes kind of thing. You would take him as a vampire, he's good. The Chamberlain bringing zombies back is obviously good. And the other guy who's the caster, who casts a spell, is a vampire, is a hero, and as an after save is also good. Them 3 heroes would be great. Why do you have to take them with a bunch of other stuff for 755 points exactly?
Are we featuring an army with this later, Ian?
No, it's unplayable.
What did an army look like? Is an army like this a dragon and 120 zombies, or is that not a thing?
So this book is Soulblight Zombie Lords, basically, is the way most of the competitive builds are going to play out. And I mean, we can talk about these when we get through the rest of the book, so it's in more context, I think.
Okay, cool. All right, okay.
But largely, I mean, 755, even if you value all them heroes at like much more than 140, like 180, you just still don't get enough value out of them, I don't think. And Radukar has got another version of himself that's better, is the other reason that this is a hard sell. So you've also got Radukar the Beast, who's one of the new models. It was the big, like, hulked out werewolf version of Radukar. He's 315 points, but for a command point, he summons an entire unit of direwolves.
All game,
basically. No, for once a battle. So he's effectively 250 points when you think about it like that, because you will be taking direwolves anyway. He's still got the same command ability to give +1, a +1 attack bubble, but he moves 8. He's got 12 wounds. He's got 24 points of damage on his war scroll, 3s and 3s, 1 rend. You get -1 to hit him in combat. So he's actually a decent combat model, not incredible, but a decent combat model where you can actually get in there and use that command ability. And he's got, although we say them direwolves are worth 65 points plus the command point, 85 points plus the command point. The ability to summon them is obviously powerful. It adds a bit more value as well because they can go where you want. So he's just good in general. So he rarely devalues the ability to get access to that command ability elsewhere for a bad points value.
I see where you're going. Yeah, good point.
So I don't think they're worth 755. I think if they'd been like 600 or some number, you would be like in my head when I did the maths right, I'd come out with them being a 600 point investment. And that not even being like that super good, to be honest with you. It was just decent. It just gets you a little package of heroes, which you would be buying elsewhere. You'd rather have a Necromancer than that other guy, probably, because Necromancer spell's amazing. You don't want them little units of stuff, really. You don't care. They're just, that what would have made them work is maybe if they'd said this is 1 drop. But upping your drop count by 4 for the 4 bad units, and that is really hard sell for me.
I'd love to know when that bit was done versus when they knew how many of this they'd have to sell, right? Because these need to be unplayable, because
that's the other problem.
They do need to be unplayable. I'd be interesting to know if they thought at some point, right, quick.
Before I got to the points section of this book, when I read Gorslav the Gravekeeper, I messaged you, didn't I? And I was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. And he's only in Curse City. This is going to be outcry.
Yeah.
And then I got to the points and I was like, oh yeah, never mind.
That works. Yeah.
But it is a bit of a shame. But yeah, you can't have limited edition models that are auto includes, unfortunately.
Yeah. For the best overall, I think, with how things turned out with...
For the best overall, but a very big chunk of stuff in the book and the stuff that the storyline is pushing on with the Virkos dynasty. And that is the new dynasty. That's one of the dynasties in the book is the Virkos dynasty. And these are the models for it that you actually can't play anymore. So that's, from a Age of Sigmar point of view, it's a massive cock-up. Whatever's happened, why Curse City's gone limited edition and why these are unplayable is just, it's a big chunk of the book that you can't use. But not ideal. Now we're on to the old Legions of Nagash stuff now.
Okay.
Which has changed a little bit.
Right.
So first, the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon who's a classic.
Yes.
Very important model in this book because there's lots of stuff you want to put on combat heroes to make them good. And he is, as in Legions of Nagash, he's the only one.
Yeah.
That's worth a damn.
He's been on tables everywhere, hasn't he, for years? So
he's the only one worth a damn. Again, a shame, because if the army was going to be vampires murder and stuff, it's a shame they haven't made the fuck guy better or whatever. But anyway, so he's been nerfed, believe it or not.
Okay.
So he's
even after that Lance thing you were just talking about, God.
Yeah. So the Lance, he's nowhere near as good as Vordry. So his Lance does +2 damage on the charge with 3 attacks with 4 damage, right?
But no extra rend.
But it's only 1 rend, so it's 2 on the charge. So it's still good. 3 attacks, 2 rend, 4 damage is still good. But he's 435 points, though.
Okay.
Right, which is a massive amount of points, like nowadays for a model like this.
At least we can get him to counters. Is that going to be happening?
Yeah, you can get him to counters 40 models, yeah. But he doesn't heal himself for D6 wounds anymore once a game. He hasn't got the vampire command ability anymore either. They've just took stuff off his war scroll. And he's 435 points, which is very expensive in
Has he got that new heal? That new D3 heal, though?
He can cast the spell, yeah.
No, I mean the one where, every war scroll seems to have that,
No. He's just lost rules. He hasn't got the vampire D3 heal either. No, he's just lost rules. Inexplicably, 2 rules just gone from his war scroll, and his spell, which was never very good, is also still irrelevant. Right? You do give him a completely new spell. You cast it on a model. It takes a mortal. If it doesn't die, you keep rolling dice on a 4+. It keeps taking mortals. On average, you're going to do like 3 mortal wounds. Not a very good spell. Yeah, I mean, he's just inexplicably nerfed. And there's a lot of builds you come out with, and he's still the only model in the army that can do that role. And so he still has to go in a list to do that role. But, why has he lost 2 abilities off? Why has he not got a command ability? Like, he's a hero on a dragon. Why has he not got a command ability? Why did he have to lose it? Vordry's kept the D6 Chalice heal, but he's lost it. Like, what? Why? Just why? So he's not great for 435 points, to be honest with you. I don't think. He probably should have come down in points for the stuff he's lost. If he'd gone to like 380 or something, that's more appropriate for what he does. He'd work a bit better alongside Vordry because you'd be able to get him to fight twice. But it's really difficult to make armies with him and Vordry in to make use of Vordry's command ability. I don't think there's any great ways to make use of Vordry's command ability anymore. It's really difficult to do it because everything's so expensive. You can do it because zombies are so cheap. You can do it. I just don't think it turns out as a great army. And I just don't know why it needs to
have the wolf girl along. She's a vampire, right? There's like quite a few vamps knocking around.
Yeah, she doesn't do that much damage that it's make up. Sorry, you mean Radikar?
No, I meant
Belladama. Yeah. Well, you're not going to make her fight twice, so she doesn't do any damage. It's pointless.
Right, okay,
there's nothing. That's one of the problems with the book, really.
I didn't mean it was going to be like some let's go big combo. I just thought maybe in some round of combat somewhere. You know what I mean. You when you fight together.
So you're really playing him in a Blood Knighty style army, and you really want other vampires killing stuff, and it just doesn't work. And again, the book struggles for damage output. There's no way to get it. Well, there is one way to get it to have good damage output, but it's a little bit railroaded. But if we're only going to have one guy on a zombie dragon who can do damage, like what you need? Why does he need nerfing? Like why do they need 2 rules taken off him? It's like this is the story of the book. The War Scrolls have just lost abilities, and therefore the book comes across as a bit dull and a bit feel bad for people who've been waiting for it for a long time, like me.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, we'll move on from him. Blood Knights. Much anticipated Blood Knights. Yeah, so in my opinion, have also been nerfed, but they have come down to 195 points, which is just getting towards playable now. So you get 5 of them.
Excited about Blood Knights, Ian.
Yeah, and I know they are, yeah. People are, well, okay.
Tell us your opinion on Blood Knights, come on.
They got 3 wounds each, and there's 5 of them. So that's 15 wounds with a 3-up save for 195 points. That's not bad. And they move 10 inches. Yeah. Their standard bearer lets them reroll 1s on the Deathless Minions rolls. So that, pumps up your Deathless Minions a little bit.
Yeah.
And they get +1 damage on the charge. So when they charge, they've got 15 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 rend, 2 damage, and some horsey bites as well. At the end of the combat phase, if any enemy models were slain, you healed D3 wounds allocated to this unit. Their special rule is called Riders of Ruin. Big thing on the internet because it doesn't really work the way it's clearly supposed to. In your movement phase, if it's within 3 of an enemy unit, it can make a normal move. The rules say any normal move made within 3 inches of an enemy unit is a retreat.
Doesn't quite say that, Ian, but
it does though. Functionally, it does.
I don't even. I'd shape on this rule of the fact that it might even actually work right now, but it doesn't matter because it will work like this. But
clearly, when they do this move out of combat, it can pass across models with a wounds characteristic of 3 or less, as if they could fly. On a 2-up, that unit takes D3 mortal wounds. What this is meant to do is let you just walk around in combat very clearly. The fluff even says it right there. Blood Knights trample clean over lesser foes to strike at more worthy challenges. So the idea of this rule clearly is that you can just walk out of combat and then go and charge something else.
Yeah, sure.
which is quite good.
Which is good. It is good.
Which is good. Yeah, and do some models on the way out. The question for me with these models, right, is they don't really do any damage. For 195 points for 30 points worth of 3s, round 1 damage isn't great. What they are good at is 15. What they are better at is 15 wounds with a 3-up, and they move 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're a bit better at.
Yeah. And looking awesome.
What's that? And looking awesome. Yeah. So they're an okay unit, but I think they are, like most things in this army, like I've just said, they're just missing damage. On the turn when you pop your Casterlight thing and they get +1 damage to all their attacks, which doesn't buff their mounts, they're going to do decent damage for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You've got you can obviously buff them with the if you've got 10 of them in a unit, inexplicably still range 1. Like, I don't know why they keep doing that to cavalry units. So you can't really play more than 10 of them in a unit. But 10 of them, giving them +1 attack command ability off a Vampire Lord, and then buffing them with the +1 damage thing once a game is going to hurt some stuff, like, for sure.
Yeah.
And 5 of them flanking from the side of the board is not going to be a unit that's very easy to kill for a lot of smaller enemy things either. So I think they're definitely playable and they look amazing. They're not top end.
They're pretty good as, like, if you wanted that one. The problem is you got dogs, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah. The other problem is
that one fast unit thing, without any of that support, they still look okay, and the price okay. Well,
like they're not that fast either.
Yeah.
And when they do this retreaty, move, they're on big bases, right? And they only move 10, so being able to get 3 inches away from all the enemies, like, if you're moving into the enemy lines, it's questionable where you're going to be able to actually put them to make use of that ability. Obviously, you can just retreat them out and into something else or whatever, but to actually use it the way it's meant to be used is quite difficult because they don't really move that fast.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. So if you think about the allegiance ability as well, they're not really going to be. What you want to do with these is, like, trample through stuff, kill a hero, get that permanent +1 damage on them. That's what you really want to do. And
that's a unit by unit case stat check, right?
The
army doesn't do it somewhat, and then the rest of the army gets unit by unit.
It's if that unit, yeah. And therefore, you want to do that with a unit of 10 to get the buff, but as a unit of 10 going to have anywhere to land to go and kill that hero? Probably not. There's too many models in it. There's a lot of difficulty that comes into actually putting those combos together. So, I mean, I think they're playable, no doubt, and a unit of Blood Knights will look amazing with these new models. But they're much better at just being reasonably tough for their points. A 3-up save is good. Three wounds. If you did want to go into the point where you're not getting your good combos from your allegiance abilities anymore, if you had like Lauka Vi or a Avengorii Lord moving around with these, given -1 rend out, they're not going to die very easily.
Yeah, can Neferata make these ethereal?
Neferata can make them ethereal. You can obviously use that for -1 to hit bubbles as well. So there's lots of ways to make them tough. Again, the problem is tough units, you tend to want them to be like bogged down in combat and whatever. And when these are bogged down in combat, they don't get their lance bonuses. So even if you retreat them out and charge back in your turn, in the enemy turn, they're not doing any damage when they're stuck in combat. And that can be 2 turns in a row sometimes. So they're just a little bit... you don't output a lot, and no matter how tough you are in Age of Sigmar, every army's got much better offense than your defense. And so if you get bogged down in combat for a turn or even 2 turns, you're still going to be dead regardless, or you're going to have lost a lot. And 195 points for 15 wounds is not great economy either. So
okay, though, like these, it's just the thing for me is they just got a few of the numbers that you think, like the 3+ save is one, that lets you get to that magical 2s or that ethereal number or that ethereal and 2s if you can somehow manage to do that. And the points are not, because these could have been 220, right? Like, and people would have been like not okay with it. People would have been like, oh well, yeah.
They're just about
how many points they decided they are.
Yeah, so they're just about cheap enough to work. But again, problem with like my problem with a lot of stuff in Age of Sigmar. They don't really do what you want them to do to feel cool. Like they aren't that like, oh my god, it's not just one vampire, it's 10 of them on horses. They're gonna murder everything. Like I would rather them just be murderers and cost of 400 points.
Yeah.
You know, like they used to in old fantasy, they used to cost an absolute fortune. Like Chaos Knights,
like the Slaves to Darkness one.
Yeah, exactly. But you're definitely playable. And if you want to do Blood Knight armies, you 100% can, and you will win games with it as well.
I will feature some later, right?
Yeah, got one later.
Yeah. Cool, beautiful.
Now we're into the real old units that no one ever puts on the table, and are very surprising they're even in this book.
Shall I be fine to go on screen here, or quick summaries of these going to be okay?
Yeah, Vargeist's three models for 155 points on the crap, so you can skip over them. They're also very old models, which you don't want to use.
Yeah.
Vampire Lord, still the same as it ever was, pretty much.
So still good then, right?
Yeah, still good. A little bit short range now. Soulblight Gravelords summonable unit. Wholly within. Oh, summonable. I'd missed that. So they can't even target Blood Knights with their ability. And so they have nerfed that. You used to be able to use this on your vampires, lords on zombie dragons to get an extra attack and all sorts. It was a good ability. Now it only works on summonable stuff. It's wholly within 12. That was the change I had picked out. It was a little bit close range. But still good. Gone up to 100. Well, no, they haven't gone up. They're actually 140 points. So that in new context might be good if they're actually cheap as it goes.
Sure, yeah.
They buff one of your summonable units, so they're still decent. All the palanquins are still here. The Mortis Engine, the Coven Throne, and the inexplicably new one that you have to kit bash yourself out of your own kit, the Bloodseeker Palanquin.
Yes.
All being insanely increased in points. Absolutely mad numbers. 300 points levels for these. You know, they're 12 wound models with a 4-up save. No melee attacks to speak of. Like, they've all got cool abilities. Like, the Mortis Engine was like under 200. I just can't understand what's going on. This is another case of, look, we're just going to increase the points of these, like, and no one's ever going to use them. I don't get them, to be honest. They have changed a bit. Like the Coven Throne's command ability is +1 to hit and wound and saves for a unit.
Yeah.
But you know, what is it now? 310 points. Like, it doesn't do anything else other than that. You know, they're just unplayable, those 3 kits, which is fine because they're a nightmare to paint. So I'm good.
Sorry, the points increase. We're in the realms of needing answers from AOS 3 now, aren't we? On some stuff, big time here. I can't wait to see if there is
maybe they just don't want them to play to be used anymore, which is a bit of a shame for people who've already got the army. When you're like, oh, you know, you keep their models on your shelf for 3 years, waiting for them to come back around to good again. What can I do with them? And you can't do much with these. Necromancer, he's got up to 125 points.
Yeah,
but he now bounces wounds on a 3-up rather than a 4-up. I'm good with that. I'll pay it. I love my Necromancers, you know I do.
Yeah.
Still think they got one of the best spells in the game. Summonable unit can fight twice, which is great. Embarrassingly, I'm not sure if this is a change or not, so I am going to look it up before I say it. But I'm pretty sure it's a change.
I'll just take a sec. Just say thanks to everyone who's has been chatting in the chat and commenting on that. I know I've been a bit distracted doing the war scrolls. I'm not as prepared as I'd like to be, but you know, thanks, Coach. Thanks very much for popping in, checking us out. Appreciate it. Really do. What have you got here for us then? Have you checked it?
It is a change. Yeah, they've got to be within 3 to fight twice, which is a little bit frustrating. Because it's obviously it can be in a lot of ways quite easy for someone to take a unit out of 3, especially since you have to have precast a spell. But you're going to be doing it on zombies, which you've got a 6-inch pile in now, and wrapping people and stuff. So hopefully not that bad.
Nice.
And speaking of zombies, that's the next war scroll.
Oh, well, that's fine then, because
this is the war scroll that is going to make this army good if one of the war scrolls does. So these are irrelevant melee attack, 1 attack, 4-inch move, 1 wound, no save. But they can fight when they're within 6, of enemies and pile 6, which is really weird for zombies. I didn't expect that at all.
No, I don't think it is. You see, you know, there's lots of different zombies out there, right? Like maybe it's a weird for a Warhammer zombie, but you know, you see fast zombies. You see like these overpowered. You know, I always think about World War Z. You know, I love the scene where they jump on the helicopter off the walls and all that. Like, you know, you do see these fast, rapid zombies, don't you? So maybe different directions.
The thing for this is now those Deadwalker zombies are clumsy and slow. They should never be underestimated because they move with supernatural speed when they get close.
I look at the picture. Look at the picture of the fella on it. He doesn't look like he's
moving with supernatural speed. Yeah. So their big rule they've got is this one: the newly dead. Right. If they roll a 6 to hit, they do a mortal. Right. Yeah. Now, you get 20 of these for 115 points. They're under 60 points for 10 models. Now, you would pay 60 points for models with no abilities, right? Just to get access to 10 bodies for 60 points.
Right, look, I just want to say something, right? I never got this far before I fell asleep. So I don't mean that in a joking way. I mean, I'm very tired. I've done a lot of work. I've just genuinely fell asleep. So I'm just taking this in. So 110 points, you get 20 of them?
115 points for 20 of them, right? For 20 models. And they can only go to 40. But they do Immortal on a 6. Now, they've got no save. People keep saying, oh, they've got no save, though. That's bad. In Age of Sigmar, right, a 6+ is a blank nowadays. Everything's got a rend. A 5+ in a lot of cases is a blank. I would rather pay no points for a save and throw and make a unit cheaper. If that's even how they cost units, we know that it's not done that algorithmically, but I would rather pay no points and just have wounds. Wounds are the most powerful stat in this game, just raw wounds. 57.5 points for 10 wounds is good, but then we get to this ability. On a 6, you do Immortal, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the combat phase, this is even better because the timing's amazing. You roll a dice for every model that was slain by this unit's attacks. Then outside the mortals, they're unlikely to do any damage. For every 2+, you can add 1 Deadwalker zombie to this unit. Now, you know, I was talking about this week in our WhatsApp about rules for add versus return. And it's difficult when you play 40k and lots of other games to remember which game's got what rules about adding models to units. I don't think there's anything that stops a unit going over its starting size when you add a model.
You're right. It's written. That's not even in the core rules, Ian. I don't believe. Yeah, unless
exactly.
There's a way they you out there. Yeah. That's a war scroll rule.
So there's nothing that stops you adding. So if this unit goes and does 50 mortal wounds to something, which it can, which I'll show you in a minute, this unit can go from 40 to 90 models. Right. And the best thing about the resin, like, it's not when they attack either. So if you attack someone and do 50 mortals, then they kill 38 of your zombies, you get the zombies back at the end of the combat phase. So the timing's really good as well. It works out really well. So that ability is just bonkers for 115 points for 20 guys. It's just so good. And we'll show you all the ways to buff their attacks in a minute as well. You're already thinking Vampire Lord, Radukar the Wolf is charging in there doing stuff as well. The Necromancer's making them fight twice. Like, there's a lot going on here, right?
I was thinking, do we need to turn off pre-orders on these? Do I have enough of them to make sure people aren't disappointed?
Yeah, these are good. Then we get on. So next page, we get onto the corpse carts. Bit weird. Very good models. They were already pretty good. They used to be like 60 points with a buff ability of some kind. They were already.
I've had an email in my in our shared inbox that says your Games Workshop order is on the way, and it included corpse carts. Ian. So,
thanks, leaks.
Maybe go buy corpse carts. Historically, don't buy corpse carts because that means
now go and buy 2 corpse carts from us right now, so Richie can put the order in straight after the show before they all sell out, because that's what always happens to good stuff on web store. So corpse carts were already great for 60 points. The only thing I didn't like about them a lot of the time was the increase your drops, but you used to get like casting buffs off them. They were a really good model. Now they're 80 points and they've got 2 buffs each and they're great. So the Unholy Lodestone one is +1 to cast for friendly wizards. Holy within 12 boss, and also +1 to save for friendly Deadwalker zombies. Holy, we're in 12 as well. So it gives them a 6+ save. For anyone who's not sure about that, it's in the FAQ. So +1 to cast, and all your zombies get a 6+ save, which is not nothing for 80 points. You'd take just a +1 to cast, really, for that. But, you know, that's cool. It's a good ability. Notably, if you use Neferata's spell on zombies and then cast that, they've still got a 6+ save. Tech. You wouldn't do that. But that corpse cast's really good. But the second one's even better. -1 for casting rolls for enemy wizards within 18 of the corpse cart, which is really good because it's long ranged. And -1 to wound melee with enemy units within 9 of the corpse cart. 80 points that model is.
Oh my god.
It only moves 4 inches, but you know, you're just gonna run it every turn. You're gonna be in range about them debuffs from most of the enemy army all the time. 80 points. Absolute cracker of a unit that. You know, really, and really good. For an 80-point unit, it's got appropriate, you know, it does the same as an 80-point battle line in melee as well. You know, it's got 6 wounds. Yeah, people might shoot it. Yeah, it's not a hero. Don't get -1 to hit it. Yeah, but if people do shoot it, it's an 80-point model. Like, whatever. You haven't shot me, Necromancer. These are like target number 1 for archers. Basically, these. They're really good.
Then we get more lads just turn up to the battlefield, just get riddled with bows as soon as they rock up.
Yeah, exactly, all the time. Yeah. All right, so then zombie dragons next. I was a fan of the zombie dragon previously when it went down to 300 points. I think that's, although it hasn't got the biggest damage output in the world, so it's got 7 attacks, 4s and 3s, 1 rend, 2 damage, 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, 2 rend, d6 damage, and it's got a breath attack with 3 rend, d6 damage as well, and it degrades, but 14-inch move, 14 wounds and a 4-up save. It flies. 295 points now. It's gone down by 5. It's not raw stats-wise. It's not amazing for its points. It's acceptable, but it's a good piece.
Yeah.
You know, the maneuverability of it, the damage that it has got, you know, the board control it exerts, the size of its base. Zombie dragons, I think, have always been... Dragon models like that have always been very good pieces in Age of Sigmar to play the game with beyond just their raw stats, and I really like them for 295.
Yeah, you know, you already talked about the drop off on the Vampire Lord on 1. I think we've talked about enough heroes to be doing the hero stuff without needing that hero as well, maybe.
Yeah, 140 points. The Vampire Lord is basically the cost of a Vampire Lord added onto the back of the dragon. Basically, he does add a lot of damage. He does make it a caster. He does give it +1 to save, most importantly. But it's a hard sell
to be X amount of models, but
but it's a hard sell for 140 points, though. Outside of making it count as 14 models, which is very good. The Terrorgeist is still the same as it was, but it's 310 points, so it's 15 more points than the Zombie Dragon. It's got the Scream. It does mortals when it rolls a 6 to hit, but it's got less claw attacks. They're D3 instead of 2, which is worse. I don't think you'd take the Terrorgeist.
Don't you know? Everyone loves the Terrorgeist.
I know everyone does. It's because people love things where it's like when you roll a 6, this happens. But it's got 3 attacks. So most of the time, it rolls 1/6 every twice it attacks. And in return for that, it loses 3 attacks on its claws. And I think, I mean, if stuff keeps going the way it's going, where things are going down to like 5 and 6 bravery a lot, and stuff is getting minus bravery from this army now, the Shriek gets a bit better because it's D6 minus their bravery +6 mortal wounds. So, you know, maybe, but 15 points. I would default to the zombie dragons, and if you've got points left at the end of the army, I would maybe bump one up to a Terrorgeist or something, potentially. But I think I'd probably rather just fight for a Triumph if they still exist in Age of Sigmar 3.
Sure, yeah.
So now we're just on to the last few war scrolls now, which are all the Death Rattle war scrolls. I know there's a bit more than that. We've still got the White Kings, which have now got a completely broken command ability, as you'll know if you've read the internet. So in your hero phase, you pick a friendly Death Rattle unit, Holy We're in 12. Until the end of the phase, they can reroll 1s to hit in melee.
Sorry, well, say that again. I was just finding the war scroll.
You use the command ability in the hero phase, and the Death Rattle unit can reroll 1s to hit in melee until the end of the phase.
That's good.
In the hero phase, really good.
That's handy. Yeah. You're using your hero phase only as well, so
yeah, only your hero phase. Yeah, it's for when you want to make them fight in your hero phase. You want to get that sweet reroll ones to hit, I think. Look, these are both of these models, assuming the command ability works properly in the combat phase, as it will be errated to be. These are both poor models because for basically the same points, you can get a vampire or a necromancer who've got much better buffs.
Yeah.
I would have hoped, hoping this book was going to get a big rework, which it obviously hasn't. I would have hoped these would have got like something to really buff skeletons, like +1 attack to a unit of skeletons, or +1 to hit, or like, make them retreat and charge, or like whatever. But their command ability is actually just really bad. And yeah, I don't think you're going to see these on the table anymore. I don't think there's any real reason to use them over the others. Especially not since skeletons, which I'm going to jump to. I've also lost all the rules off the War Scroll. So you'll have many memories of me killing stuff with rolling 160 dice with skeletons and people saying, what, 3 years ago? Now they just have 1 attack, 3s and 4s, no rend. They don't have a 2-inch reach option anymore either. It's just Ancient Blade or Spear. They don't get any bonus attacks. They don't do anything. What they do is when you pick them to fight.
Can I say I like that. The weapon choice thing doesn't matter. I like that on the Bloodlights as well. I hate that fear of assembling my unit in a way that is right or wrong, or could change to be right or wrong. I'm actually a fan of that. But
yeah. So am I. Yeah, I'm just not in the fact they've just lost everything.
Of course. Obviously, we want them to be better or whatever.
They've lost their silly shield rule and just gone to a 5-up save, which is good, but a 5-up save is terrible. They've lost their auto 6 charge rule. They re-roll their 1s on deathless minions now. Sure. What they do, the rule they have gained, is when you pick them to fight, you roll a dice for every model that was slain that phase, and on a 4-up, they get the model back, which would be a completely fine rule if the unit did anything.
All right. Look, I think you're being a bit unfair. These have changed a lot. Maybe you see that negatively, but
they do a different thing. They do a very different thing. The thing is, there's a bunch of stuff in the book, right, that buffs summonable units, which mostly is skeletons or zombies.
Yeah.
And most of the book is targeted at, making these better in some way. But when they've only got 1 attack, 3s and 4s, no rend, doesn't matter how much you buff them, they're never doing anything. Right?
It doesn't feel like the scrolls push that way, though, right? It feels like they get a save bonus, they can res when they die.
But only the things that have died in that phase, right? So the timing is just really bad for them. You just basically you compare these to zombies, and there's no way you're ever putting these on the board. These are also 85 points for 10, so they're more expensive.
That's a big problem.
And
that's not what I can just shake at my head at and go, that's...
And they've got a new model kit.
Well, I don't know how do you get to that point where the difference between zombies and skeletons is, I suppose the difference between zombies and skeletons has often been that big, where skeletons are just better, right? And it's swung around now in typical fashion. But
I mean, if you'd have left skeletons,
I certainly don't remember a long time ago them being so different between the two units.
No,
a lot. I'm talking a long time ago.
They've got a new model kit, right? Again, same as the thing we said before. Make the models good enough to buy. There's no way anyone's buying Death Rattle skeletons now. The only edge case use for them is they're the cheapest unit in the army. So if you need a battle line and you've run out of points for your build, 85 points, you get 10 of them. That's
zombies are battle line, right?
Zombies are battle line as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's the only edge case use for these. But it's just really, again, I was hoping I'd have a choice of zombies or skeletons in my armies, right? And I'd be like, "Ooh, this army's going to have this better. This is going to be this better."
You want some both, don't you?
Or both. These are unplayably bad, which is a shame for that kit. I mean, we're going to sell a lot of zombies, rightly so.
They don't feel unplayable, bar next to zombies, I guess. Which is,
I don't know. I mean, aren't they though? 85 points for 10 men with no stats whatsoever that bring back units that have died that phase on a 4-up. If you've got 10 of them, they will never get to use that ability because they'll all be dead, right, before they use it.
Yeah.
if you've got 30 in the unit, well, you're not spending 255.
I know.
You know. So anyway, let's move on from them. This is a really one.
Yeah,
they're bad.
I always find myself like digging for answers, about the real iconic things. Like it's Anyway, go on. Let's move on. You got the next two Graveguard and
you got the Sepulchral Guard, which are the original Shadespire warband. I only played Shadespire. They're only 80 points for 7 models. And they've got like reroll charges. They do 2 hits on a 6. They've got a couple of light weapons with a rend in there. They're not battle line, unfortunately, so you're never going to take them. But they're not playable competitively, but they are in the realms of playable as Shadespire warbands go.
Not with them corpse carts I'm knocking about, they're not.
No, that's true. Just another corpse cart.
Yeah, you need more to fill with arrows.
Yeah, so Black Knights, again, inexplicably lost all the rules off the War Scroll. Like, they're a unit with a lance. They used to have extra damage on the charge. They never had any rend, but, you could get a lot of them for cheap. It's a cavalry unit. I played this at Death March at Face Hammer one year and was one game away from winning it with a Death March army using a lot of these for an Alpha Strike. Yeah. They were very good, and they've stayed the same points, 120 for 5 of these, 10 wounds and a 5-up save, 120 points. And they've lost their damage buff on the charge, and now instead...
Mad. How has the lance lost its damage bonus?
Yeah. On a 2-up, you take D3 wounds. It's just, like, unplayable. And luckily for me, I had 25 of these and they got destroyed in an accident. And I'm actually quite happy that I don't have to get 25 more painted because they're really good in a way. But they're summonable.
Tune in next week to find out what the accident was. It's such a like, there was an accident in 25.
They got knocked off the top of a cabinet. That's all. Along with my Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon as well.
Should have left it unknown. It sounded exciting.
Yeah. These are bad. They're summonable. They're one of the few summonable units in the book. If they'd have been decent, if they'd have just stayed the same, these would have been all right. You would have been able to buff them with the new stuff, charge them in, give them a load of bonus attacks, like have a load of raw damage with no rend, all that kind of stuff. They could have been, being as skeletons are bad, these could have been one of the units that you might have wanted to buff for all this new cool stuff. But no, they don't do any damage in combat. D3 mortal wounds once doesn't win you games.
What's your comment? Do you think could points do anything for these lads?
No, I don't think so. I mean, if they were 80 points, right? Let's say extreme 80 points, 10 wounds with a 5-up and a 12-inch move, you would maybe take them as battle line filler, but they don't do anything. Like, they've got no offensive output. D3 mortals doesn't do anything. You're just not where you would ever put your points. And they're only battle line now.
These fast units are outclassed by direwolves still, right? And I take it.
Yeah.
Right.
They're also only battle line in Legion of Blood, these, for some weird reason.
Okay.
Like, so anyway, unplayable. But Graveguard, which I don't think I've ever seen anyone use other than me in all the many years of Age of Sigmar. I'm sure other people did. I always used to really rate these. They were always a bit overpriced, but, you used to be able to bring them back and stuff, so you kind of compensated. They hit very hard. They used to hit very hard. They had 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 rend, and when they rolled a 6 to wound, they did double damage, but you used to be able to buff them and get a lot of attacks on them, right? And you can still do that.
And fight twice, yeah.
Yeah, and fight twice. You still do that because it's still summonable. They've changed now. They've swapped the stats around on their weapons, so the Great White Blade hits a bit worse than it used to, and the White Blade hits a bit better than it used to. But that Great White Blade has gone to 2 damage. Right. These are 140 points. So you're taking the Great White Blade, basically. 140 points for 10 of these. 2 attacks, 3s and 4s, 1 rend, 2 damage. That's 40 points worth of damage for 140 points. And if they're all 6 to wound, they do a mortal on top of that as well.
These are 5s, aren't they?
These are 10s for 140 points.
Are they?
Yeah.
Are they dead cheap now? Didn't you buy these in 5s before?
You used to buy them in you used to buy them in 5s, yeah. They used to be you used to buy them. Yeah, maybe you did. I can't remember. It's been a while. But They used to be 160 points for 10. Basically, they've gone down in points. These hit really hard. Like these hit bonkers hard. Even they benefit from all those summonable things, giving them bonuses to their attacks. Bringing back models in the unit. They're actually a unit where the individual models are valuable enough that you want to bring models back in the unit as well.
Yeah.
And obviously you can Van Hels's dance them to make them go twice. So the only thing I think about these now is they just die to a stiff breeze, right? And there's lots of units like this in Age of Sigmar now. The one I always talk about is Great Swords in Cities of Sigmar. 140 points for 10 guys with a 4-up save, 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 rend, and rolls of 6 to hit, do immortal. They hit like trucks, right? Have you ever seen them played on a battlefield? No. They're aggressively costed. They've got even better ways to get them into combat in theory in Cities of Sigmar as well. Yeah. I wonder whether these
can fight twice as well in Hammerhall, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I wonder whether these can play Age of Sigmar now. I don't know that they are survivable enough for their points, and they're obviously slow, even though you can do stuff about that. They're obviously very slow. And if you've never played with an army of stuff that moves 4, it is really bad to play Age of Sigmar with an army that moves 4, even when you've got ways to buff it. They've lost.
You got deep strike.
What's that? Yeah, you can deep strike, but then the enemy's coming to you, right? Like you've got no real good way to do anything about that. They do still charge on a 6. They're the only unit left in the book, I think, that auto charges on a 6 still. And they've got reroll 1s on their Deathless Minions now. And the old version of these had 1 worse save as well. So, it's a bit better.
So is the White Blade, this is quite small for me, this image, the White Blade got a shield bonus, has it?
No, it's only the one-handed sword, which is significantly less good. That's got the shield bonus.
Oh, so you've done the whole build them however thing again? Wait.
No. The Great White Blade's got the 2 damage. Luckily, I've got 60 of them with Great White Blades, so I'm good. These are really powerful. They have
a lot of them in the chat as well straight away. I use Grave Guards. They were good previously. They're great now. A block of 30 Grave Guards was probably the best unit in my old list. So
yeah, there you go.
I think that was it with the Death Rattle Battalion, whatever it was. You had to have some, didn't you? And most people, if they wanted to play it, just took the 5 or whatever. Whereas you and obviously these 2 lads as well really leaned into it. So
yeah, they're good. I'm not convinced these can play competitive Age of Sigmar now. Graveguard. They are a very good unit. I just don't think they can leverage that damage in any good way. And certainly when you compare them to zombies, who get double the wounds for 20% less points and have plenty of damage output as well. I think it's
this army needs heroes, and I don't just mean that in like a classic, death need heroes ways. There's a lot of stuff going on with heroes to bring the spells, the artifacts, the buffs, and the points you're gonna need to do that. Yeah, I haven't wrote a list for these yet myself, but yeah.
The other thing about these that makes a list hard to build is you need a White King to make them battle line. So there's another 120 points on a unit you really don't want to take because it's really bad. It's a 120 point tax. Or 115.
What armies not having 3 blocks of 20 zombies, mate? Like,
I know, or 40. Like,
well, I know, right? Like, but I guess what I'm saying is like, you wouldn't buy it, would you? You buy 20 more zombies.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you don't, you could also that. I mean, these are good. I'm happy that I own a lot of these painted. I have not figured out an army that I think I would be at the top end where I want to play that would make enough use of these though. Yeah. Like, because when you think about the meta, you go, right, these are 140 points for 10 wounds with a 5-up save. Every army is either going to shoot them with absolutely no issue whatsoever. And if you've invested your battle plan in these being the things that kill stuff, so you haven't brought stuff that's, going to necessarily make your zombies the best, once these die, then you're losing a lot of army very quickly. And I think what this army does best is have lots of irrelevant wounds on the board. So, all that shooting that people like to use to take off wound and efficient points like heroes and stuff, they've got nothing good to shoot at with it. And they've got to worry about zombies running and then piling 6 inches into them. I think that it's a hard sell to say as good as these hard they can hit that you should be putting them in armies, I think. Last 2 War Scrolls now. Direwolves, new kit. Much better than the old one. Much more dynamic. Very cool. Yeah, whatever. Like the War Scroll is what it is. They moved 10 inches. They got 2 wounds. They got Bravery 10, which is a thing. They got a 5-up save. Importantly, you can't buy them in 5s anymore. You got to buy them in 10s now, but they're 135 points for 10. You know, that's 20 wounds of models with a 10-inch move for 135 points. You know, they're boss.
Yeah, the boss. Yeah.
Really good. They're summonable, so you can bring models back, although you do have that problem where if you roll a 1, you don't get any models back. You can't heal them with grave sites anymore, which means they're going to be out of range of resin quite a lot because they're going to be too far away from the heroes and that kind of stuff. But still an amazing unit. And very good. And yeah, definitely, you know, rake in them new kits for these because it's much better than the old ones. People hate that old Direwolf kit. I didn't personally. I'm going to mix mine.
I didn't particularly think much of this kit. Like, I think the models are fine, but I was like, okay, there's some more wolf models. Great.
Yeah, I like it because the old Direwolf one. Yeah, cool. They look like wolves now. They're a bit more lupine. The old ones were a bit like round for whatever reason. Liam's just said Richie trying to get zombie sales up. I think Games Workshop
sales.
Liam, I think that's been done for us. Thanks. And then Fellbats, which very surprisingly have got a new kit. And again, have just inexplicably lost rules off their War Scroll. Like they used to have a -1 to hit bubble for shooting.
Right.
But, you know, as we know, shooting's really struggling in Age of Sigmar at the moment. So they've obviously had to take that rule off for fear of people moving Fellbats next to enemy units and giving them -1 to hit. Bizarre. Yeah. Like 75 points for 3. You get 9 wounds with 14-inch move for that. I think you could definitely play these because, you know, 75 points for 9 very fast wounds is not bad. You know, they're almost like Ether Wings in a lot of ways. You know, they've got some more wounds, but there's a big difference in 40 and 75 points for a start. But they're very fast and they can go and jump on stuff, right? So they are definitely playable, but like they've sort of got like the Slaanesh Slangor thing. Like you got a new kit, they're cool models. They're bats that are in a vampire army. Like, why have they not got any rules? There's a whole bit of War Scroll, even if you didn't want to break the way that page is written. Why not just put something in that blank bit on the right? Like, just give them a rule. Put them at, like, at 75 points for 3 of them. If they had the -1 to hit bubble, that would be a really interesting unit. You fly them across the battlefield turn 1 next to someone's archers, so they've got -1 to hit. For that, you pay 75 points. That'd be, I would have them in loads of armies if they did that.
They need some more rules. That
is a great thing. Yeah, and they would be good. But yeah, sadly, you know, the problem with them is obviously Direwolves do a similar role but a battle line, and these aren't. So I do think you could see a unit of these in some armies just for that, you know, when you've got that bit of points left over, a little unit that can just jump around onto objectives, turn 1, whatever. You know, you could definitely buy a unit of these. That would not be a bad idea. Just a little bit of a shame they don't still have a, I don't know, were ink costs too high to print that last bit of the War Scroll? I don't know. A bit weird.
Are we on War Scroll battalions now?
War Scroll battalions, yeah. So we've got
Red units in that army.
There are a lot of units, yeah. Red Banqueteers, 2 or more Vampire Lords, not the keyword. Although who knows how that's going to shake out in an FAQ. 1 Bloodseeker Palanquin or Coven Throne, as we've explained already, very bad. So very taxy. And 2+ Blood Knights units. So this can be a 1-drop quite easily.
Yeah.
2+ Vampire Lords is likely to obviously be any Vampire Lord. So it could be a Vampire Lord on a Zombie Dragon and 1 on foot. And then you get all your Blood Knights in the army and in a 1-drop battalion. And you heal D3 wounds in your hero phase to every unit in the battalion, which is not that bad an ability when you've got Zombie Dragons or guys with 3 wounds. Although they do already have that ability, though. Only problem with this, really, and it's only 100 points this as well, which is good as battalions go. So this can 1-drop your army easily in a Blood Knight build. The only real problem with it is having to take that Bloodseeker Palanquin or Coven Throne.
At least the battalion's dirt cheap.
but the battalion is cheap, yeah.
Not
So
cheap,
I mean,
it is cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, it offsets that a bit. I could certainly see that being played.
Unfortunately,
Unfortunately,
does Bloodseeker Paladin or Throne bring much?
they do. Yeah, so one of them's got the spell I mentioned before, +1 to hit and wound and saves.
Yeah,
which on a unit of Blood Knights makes them a 2-up. Which is like
we're cooking here.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't do nothing. It's just bad for its points. But like you could make an army out of that, no problem. The only thing is the main benefit you get for all that tax on this is being low drop, and they only move 10, so they're not fast enough to like alpha someone, really. But being low drop is not just good for alphaing, obviously. So this is definitely playable. If you're into Blood Knights, I think it's playable.
This looks good. This is really forced.
Yeah, it's very full. It's a very railroady battalion, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is, you take Castellan, you take
whatever vampires you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the Bloodlights you want.
Yeah.
And you're off.
Yeah. Fellowing Flock, 2 to 3 Vargeists and 2 to 3 Fellbat units. Now this is only 80 points.
What's this?
Yeah, I'll totally into this for +1 to hit rolls for my Vargeist.
What?
Like, I don't even know why Vargeist are in this book, to be honest with you.
What?
Like, there must still be some in the warehouse or something. I don't really know what that's there for.
Who asked for this?
So
this Vargeist,
Legion of Night is the worst, like unplayable, really, allegiance in the book.
Right. Okay. So it's the suit and allegiance. All right.
Yeah, and Vargeist are battle line in Legion of Night, right? So in theory, this can get you all your battle line in one drop. But yeah, we'll probably just move on from that one.
Our coach has made a good point here. They're gone as well, aren't they? The bat swarms are gone. He said that the bat swarms at the Marsh one, they're gone, aren't they?
Oh, were Fellbats a different unit, were they? Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm thinking
remember them.
Thing.
Remember them?
Well, in that case, maybe they should have just merged them into one.
Yeah,
like
to
do that.
They are gone, right? You didn't mention the bats.
Yeah, they are gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was all the same unit. Maybe I'm misremembering. That's been a while. The next one, though, next battalion's really, really good. This is like almost auto-include levels of good.
Oh, right. Oh, we're going to find this one.
Death Stench Drove, right. 1 to 2 corpse carts. I'm good with that. Yeah, I was buying them anyway.
This is sounding all right.
2 units of zombies.
They're not very good. They're not very good.
Yeah, they're ready for. Yeah.
That's a task.
And 2 units of direwolves, right? +1 to the attack characteristic of melee weapons of units were in 12 penny corpse carts from this battalion. And this is only 100 points as well. So this gets you all your battle line and your 2 corpse carts you're probably going to buy. But if you only want 1, you can get that as well. And it gives you +1 attack. It doubles the attacks of those guys who do mortals on a 6 and bring them all back. So
I want to. My God, is this like the best battalion ever?
It's pretty good, isn't it?
Okay, I'm sure there's like battalions that have a rule that is, so game breaking that a whole army's built around or some 1-drop stuff. But
I mean,
this is good.
There's one called Change Host you may remember from.
No, it's I've never played it.
Anyway, the direwolf thing in it is a bit annoying because you sort of don't want them in some of these armies, but you're certainly not sad to have them, right?
Rein your neck in right now.
Zombies. It's an okay tax.
That is a joke. Shut up.
There's shockingly a list with this in a minute.
That is a joke.
And then there is my old favourite, sadly now dead, Death March. 1 White King, not ideal. 1 to 3 units of Black Knights, definitely not ideal. 1 to 3 units of Graveguards, sound. 2+ units of Death Rattle, also not ideal. Like, this battalion's all tax, basically. Like, the only thing you want in there is the Graveguard, which you were going to make battle line. At the start of your moving phase, you pick 3 friendly different units, Holy Rin 12 of the White King, and they get +3 move characteristic. I do like that. When I used to play as, I used to say to people, I'm going to use this command ability to move all my men 3, but do you mind if I just add it on in the movement phase? Because I don't want to move all these models 3 times this turn. And people used to go, yeah, go ahead, that's all right. So yeah, look, I mean, if you want to pay for 2 units of Death Rattle skeletons and a unit of Black Knights as tax on the Graveguard White King army you were going to build, then you could certainly play this. It's 120 points for some reason. I think there's too much tax in this, really. to make it good enough. Like the +3 move characteristic thing's powerful, no doubt. But
you can't play that.
I doubt it. I mean, if you want to get your skeletons out for a game, like if like me you own 200 of them and an army, then fair enough. It's not the worst thing in the world. You can have a very low drop army with the Graveguard in, which are really good. If you go into a 1-day or something, I could play that army in a 1-day quite happily, probably, if I was playing enough Age of Sigmar to not care. But it's not. The units in this just aren't good enough anymore. Even though the battalion ability, extra move is a powerful ability, the units aren't good enough anymore.
Yeah.
So should we look at some Death Den Strove zombie armies then?
How many points is a unit of direwolves?
135.
You have to have 2 of them, do you?
In that Death Den Strove, yeah. So it's 200. It's 200.
I was wondering if I could have 4 or 3 of those War Scroll battalions in 2,000 points, but it's only 3. So yeah, that's a shame.
You can do a lot of mad stuff. I think I haven't put any armies together with 160 zombies in. Right, I haven't done that because I don't think you need me to tell you how to build that army. Right, I don't think anyone needs to know that you can put 160 zombies in an army and be boss. I don't think anyone needs to know that you can take 2 of that battalion with one or 2 corpse carts in each. You happily run 4 of them, 4 units of direwolves and a load of zombies. Like, no one needs to know how to build that army. It builds itself. It just depends on how many zombies you want to paint. But outside of that, there's lots of clever things. You can obviously take that battalion at minimum, just as it is, with no further buffs in any of the other armies, just to fulfill all your battle line requirements and give you some powerful units. Like, even if you don't buff them anymore, 40 zombies with 2 attacks each is 80 attacks, right? So we're doing like 13 mortal wounds. We're putting 11 zombies back into the unit. For a 230-point unit with minimal investment, corpse cart you would buy anyway, and a battalion that gets you some of those artifacts, command points, etc. Any army in this book can start from that.
I really want a zombie army, I really, really want a zombie army right now. Oh, I wish
Any army in the book can start
pink zombies and not pink elves now.
If you're going to build a list, an arbitrary list out of this book, you should competitively, you should definitely be starting with that, basically, because everything about it's good. Low drops, loads of models you're going to buy anyway, and +1 attack on the zombies. It's great. And the likelihood is
we're going to move on to some of your lists then.
Yeah, I was just going to say generically, I'm much more into like generic list building advice a lot of the time now, because so many, we're sort of gone from the days of where books just have one obvious list.
Yeah.
Now, and I like the bit where we just talk a little bit more generically. I think adding that Death Den Strove to your army is likely to have vampire lords, necromancers and stuff in it, wherever else it's doing as well. Yeah. So even if you're just taking that with your minimum 20 zombies just to fulfill your battle line requirements and get some okay units, lower your drops down.
I think it was 680 points, I think. So.
Yeah, I think that's right, yeah. 680, 660 maybe, I forget. Yes, one of those anyway. Even if you're just taking it for that, if you're taking your Graveguard because you want to do a Graveguard army and buff them with a Vampire Lord and a Necromancer, those things can also buff these in a pinch if you need to as well. So a lot of the time you get overlap from wherever your other plan might have been as well. Obviously, this as your primary plan is also completely fine, though. You've got to remember those zombies can just start in the middle of the board with grave sites as well. So the 4-inch move maybe, depending on scenario, of course, but the 4-inch move maybe isn't even that bad a lot of the time. You just go, I'm going to plonk 80 models down there. Each of those units is only 230 points. Even if they get charged, if you do the maths buffing them, even if they get charged and the enemy takes 15 of them out, they can still go and do like 10, 12 mortals back and then get 10 models back. And even though that might not be a great trade in terms of where your units left at, you've got to remember that that was only 230-point unit to do that with as well. They're very good and they work well. And obviously you are getting a few back every turn from your your Deathless Invocations and stuff like that. So yeah, go on, let's look at some armies.
I guess at least it's max 6 now, right? Which is, I can see, like, imagine old resin on these zombies.
Yeah, it's good not to have old resin on these zombies, but for all the other units in the book that are bad, like Death Rattle Skeletons, they really needed the old resin to be good. So it's, you know, I'd rather the zombies be less good, the skeletons be better, and the allegiance abilities work better with them. You know,
I guess, yeah, at least you're not prone to the double turn as much as well.
Yeah,
Like,
this is undoubtedly better for the army. This makes a better army, maybe better than it was, probably better than it was before. Minus Grimghasts makes them very powerful. But, you know, although it's a shame that all the new kits aren't playable, one of the new kits, which is Zombies, which is another great kit, one of the best incarnations of zombies I've seen. Like, they are really nice. We're going to be able to put them on the table, which is good, with some other new models.
Right,
you got some to show to put up on screen?
Yeah, I've got some now. Yeah, thanks everyone who's watched so far. If you've enjoyed it, you know, please give us a like. Let us know what you think of the book so far, and we're about to look at some lists. I'd love to see in the comments what you guys have been writing list-wise as well. So if you've got a hot list, you got something you think we've missed, pop it in the comments as well. And don't forget, you can pick up all these from justplaygames.uk. Ian, your first list for today is?
So this is relatively obvious in a lot of ways, I guess. So this is Death Stench. Death Stench Drove that we just talked about. So max units of zombies, max corpse carts, obviously, 2 units of dire wolves. I like the way the tooltip for Halloween Spooky Forest is on the screen there, just in case anyone was unsure what that background was.
From? That's funny, that isn't it?
So this is Avengorii Dynasty. The reason for playing Avengorii Dynasty in this is to get the Spore Trackers command ability on the Necromancer General. That lets your zombies move an extra 3 inches, basically. It also lets your direwolf, it lets Deadwalkers move an extra 3 inches, actually. So, you know, it makes your direwolves move very fast turn 1, makes your zombies move faster. And we've also got. I'm going to have to find these pages again now to just go into some of these bits. But yeah, so we got. I mean, the Avengorii Dynasty has given us +1 to wound on our Deadwalkers, which is obviously essentially pointless. Yeah. To all intents and purposes, but we get to reroll casting on our Vampire Lord as well, which is also not great. Just guarantees he's getting his spell off. Unfortunately, the 2 Necromancers don't get that buff, which is a real shame. And Radukar the Beast, who's in there for his +1 attack command ability, so we can really make these zombies go crazy. And because he's like acceptable value for what he does for the army, he also doesn't benefit from it because he doesn't have a spell. So we are really in Avengorii just for this Spore Trackers ability. Here, just to make all the Deadwalkers move an extra 3 inches, which I think, you know, is quite a powerful ability. However, you also could not do that. You could just run it out of like one of the other allegiances. None of them fit particularly well, is the thing, really. None of them do particularly great things, your allegiances, but, you know, you could have +1 to save on your Deadwalkers on turn 1 if you really wanted to, or, you know, maybe if Battle Shock changes next edition, you might want to take that weird Legion of Night thing. But what I'm really going for is just making the corpse carts move 7 and run, so they go faster to keep in range of everything. Making the Deadwalkers move faster, you might be getting them out of grave sites anyway. But if in scenarios where you can't just pop up out of grave site and stay there, moving 7, that's their major weakness, right? The one thing they don't do is move. So this Spore Tracker's ability is just really good. Double Necromancer, because you rarely want redundancy on Van Hell's Dance because it's just so powerful. But also access to Fading Vigor and Overwhelming Dread is also good. Far from diminishing returns. Vampire Lord is there for his +1 attack buff. He's also got the Terminus Clock. So between the Terminus Clock and the Corpse Cart, all your enemy casters are maybe -2 for 1 turn, which is quite a big debuff for a critical turn. And then we've got Radukar the Beast. So maths-wise, 40 Deadwalker zombies, assuming they're going first, 40 attacks. Very easy to get 40 25 mil base models into combat, especially since they pile 6. So it's 40 attacks, +1 for the battalion, so 2 attacks each, +1 for the Vampire Lord, 3 attacks each, +1 for Radikar, which you won't get all the time, but you should most of the time, 4 attacks each. So that's 160 attacks, right?
Yeah.
Going twice,
Yeah.
320 attacks.
Yeah.
So that's 54 mortal wounds they do when they go. They won't get that because, you know, someone will go in between them, etc. But if you've gone once and done 27 mortal wounds, you're probably not getting hit back by that much. And you're going to lose some stuff. So you're going to throw out 45, 50 mortal wounds with these easy in a combat. And then you're going to add 40 models to the unit. And then you've got a unit of 80 zombies sitting there potentially. And the next time you do it, these are then going to be throwing out 100 mortal wounds in an attack, potentially. And one of the reasons you want the extra move, therefore, is if this continues to work like this, I would be surprised if the unit numbers don't get capped. But once you've buffed that unit up to 80 zombies, next turn it can go and like charge the entire enemy army, basically. Like wrap their army, wrap whatever's in range, and just fucking murder the whole army in a turn.
It's thematically amazing. Like,
yeah,
infecting the whole army, then just got them all wrapped up. It is crazy. Big numbers, big numbers. Okay,
yeah. I'm not entirely confident that will survive an FAQ. Like, I think they probably should be capped at 40 models.
I don't know, because there's someone made a really good point earlier. Like, you're infecting people, right? It was David, wasn't it? You know, we're making more zombies. Like,
yeah. Oh, yes, thematically, fine, yeah. I'm just not sure that adding models up to an infinite number, you know, because they could easily be, if they, even if they roll a little.
Saying you got to own them is a weak argument, but
you could easily just go once with 40 of them, and then the unit could turn into a unit of 100 models, right? Like,
agreed. Yeah,
that seems good. What I do like about them, though, in other incarnations, when you build other lists and you only put 20 in a unit, is that if the 20 gets to go first, they can turn into 40 really quickly, and I like that. That's cool. Yeah. Turning 20 into 40, and because it happens at the end of the phase, you go. Like I said this before, you kill a bunch of stuff, but they kill a bunch of you as well. You go down to 10 models, but end of the phase, you go straight back up to 40.
Yeah,
and I just really like the way they work. So regardless of how it works, it'll be good. And then the last thing I've got in this army is a zombie dragon. So I've tried to build this army to be an army that will give me the ability to play Age of Sigmar rather than just put 160 zombies on a board, because no matter how powerful your zombies are, there is a good chance that against lots of armies, you know, like someone will just charge and take 2 units off, or they will just play the objectives and you'll never catch them, or whatever. And if you're not going to play an army with like 160 zombies in, having Radikar who can run around and kill stuff a bit, a zombie dragon for a low investment. I mean, look how many wounds this has got on the board. You know, there's 120 wounds of just battle line units there. Then there's a zombie dragon and Radikar is going to summon another 10 direwolves as well. You just got stuff everywhere. It's a lot of wounds, and it's a really, really powerful army. And there's loads of ways you can run this slightly differently, but doing similar-ish things as well. You know, this originally didn't have Radikar in, because I'm not even sure you need that many buffs on the zombies, and he's the least efficient buff on the zombies. If you take Radikar out, you can add another zombie dragon. You could add a Terragate.
The first thing I thought was as well, like I expected we might see a lot of Wolf Lady as well.
Yeah, so she doesn't buff anything that this army does. Like, but again,
100 points, cast 2 spells, carries the stuff.
Yeah, because Direwolves and Deadwalker zombies and the Corpse Cart, because the core's so cheap, you can play whatever toys you want in this. So obviously you can take out the second Necromancer if you want to. You can take out Radikar, and there's a lot of points in there to play with to give you. Like, I've also had, you know, I had 120 zombies in this to start with. I sort of purposely cut the numbers down because I'm not going to have that much painted for the first time I play this army. But you could have like another unit of Deadwalkers on.
I'm being funny, right? Yeah, and it's not 120, mate. It's like, is it 200? Is it more than 200?
Yeah.
Is it 300? How many do you need to play it?
Crazy numbers of zombies.
Crazy amounts of them.
Yeah. And there is an argument that past 200, you've probably won the game anyway. So does it really matter? Like, But you know, you can do a lot with it. If you want to take Belladammer in this, you can. You know, if you wanted to, like, the one save and grace for the 755 point Care City things, right, is you can take the 755 point Care City thing and still take 120 zombies in that battalion with a Vampire Lord. Right, you can still do all of this. It wouldn't be the most...
So you don't feel Nagash in this is any good?
So I did think about that, and
again, painfully obvious list. Like,
this is so cheap. This stuff, you can put anything you want in it, right?
Yeah.
But it loses a lot when it hasn't got a Necromancer on the board, which is why you should really run 2. It loses a lot without the Vampire Lord. I did have another version of this where I didn't have Radikar and I just had 2 Vampire Lords as well, because you just don't want to lose them. And Radikar's buff is easily the worst. It still costs a command point, and he's got to get into combat. So the redundancy in the Vampire Lord might just be better than that. And then for the rest of your points, you know, you just take some more zombies. You know, there's loads of ways you can play this.
Yeah.
And yet you can literally, again, much like Skaven when they come out, the battle line and the access to putting a bunch of stuff on the board is so cheap. You can play any toys you want. You definitely could play Nagash. He's not, you can't, for 975 points.
You're right, yeah. The points are more off than I thought. You're playing a lot less zombies, aren't you? So yeah,
you're not going to
with having a Necromancer, with having a Vampire Lord, like you say. Otherwise, you lose everything. So I can see what you're saying. Yeah, it's not that.
But like you say, if there is a reason why he's 1,000 points in Age of Sigmar 3,
yes,
an army there.
Yes,
you know,
cool. All right, should we move on?
Yeah. So I'm not doing any more Deadwalker zombie armies now, because you can all figure those armies out. Obviously, it's painfully obvious what you do in those armies. We don't really need to talk about how many more you can fit.
Yeah, I think you've made the point and highlighted what they can do very well there, and what you need to make them do well.
Yeah.
You can decide how many you're going to buy and paint.
All right, so the Avengorii armies, because if we just forget about zombies for a minute, what Avengorii does is really powerful. You know, -1 to be wounded wherever they are, no range, not a buff, it's just on all the time.
Yeah.
One of them in every combat phase, fights at the top of its profile, is also brilliant. And you know, the mount traits they get as well. Avengorii are also really good. So trying to focus on that monster theme if you want to play a low model count army with lots of monsters in, which, you know, everyone loves playing. This is where you can do it. So you got the Lord. He's got the eye for an eye battle trait, which is where when he takes a wound, all his weapons go up by +1 damage. He doesn't do that much damage, unfortunately, so it's limited in what it does. But he's got a 3-up save. You get -1 render, -1 to wound him. You can afford to let him get hit back, right? And he's got Amethystine Pinions to make him go quicker. Then Laukavai as well. The command abilities on these two are very good. Unfortunately, they turn themselves off sometimes, but they are good.
Yeah.
And then we've got a zombie dragon with Madden and Hunger, which is on where it eats a thing, and 3 more zombie dragons. So again, not the highest raw stats in the game, but very good pieces in Age of Sigmar, these zombie dragons. And then they're all battle line as well, don't forget. So for all of those, for all of the missions, all the battle plans where battle line matters, they're all battle line, which is good. And then we've got some zombies and some direwolves to finish the points off. You could have, you know, whatever you want in here, sort of. These are just because, you know, you need a screen, you need some stuff to sit on your back objectives. There they are.
Yeah.
You could also drop this into 20 more zombies and just have a really good bid, which is also a thing that's doable as well. And there's a bunch of stuff you can do with this, really. You can drop them direwolves down to zombies, and you can turn one of the characters into another zombie dragon if you really wanted to go crazy. Because these Vengorians aren't great for their points, I don't think, and zombie dragons are. So, you know, it's possible. But again, it's not the smartest army in the world, but I do think it's good. And it's certainly, other than the Beast Lords book, most of the monster armies aren't very good, really. You know, in the books where they give you the option to take a monster as battle line, they're generally not very good. I think this is one of the better ones. This would be a decent army, this, I think.
Okay, cool. Yeah. More to say in it, really. You know, it's
Good
Yeah,
stats
I
on
like
them.
it.
-1 to wound them, -1 rend on a stick running around with them.
Yeah.
Like, you know, is decent, I think.
Yeah, that's sound good.
Yeah.
Cool. Is this the last one? We just got 3 today, haven't we? I think.
Yeah, just got 3. So this is the other one that, you know, obviously people are thinking of, Blood Knight armies, and
Okay.
I spent quite a lot of time on this one because the army build is very obvious, right? Sticking a load of Blood Knights on the board, but min-maxing that to get it to use a lot of Blood Knights while actually be a good army is obviously a bit harder. I played with the battalion quite a lot, but I just didn't feel like it had enough stuff because the 300-point tax plus the on the palanquin plus the 100, it was 400 points worth of tax. It was just too much to get enough stuff on the board. Whereas I thought this worked out better. I also tried Vordry. In the end, I didn't use Vordry because I couldn't, again, a build with Vordry and a Vampire Lord in just hardly had any Blood Knights on the board. It just didn't have any stuff on the board. And so because you really want this Rousing Commander trait, you've just got to take this Vampire Lord on the Zombie Dragon, basically, to get it off. Also, the Fragment of the Keep is super good. That -1 to wound thing as well. So on the turn, when these do crash in, hopefully what you're doing is popping that Rousing Commander, popping the Fragment of the Keep. This Vampire Lord probably shouldn't be in there anymore because I didn't notice it was only summonable units when I was writing this list.
Right.
And obviously you can't buff them units to 10 Blood Knights anymore, which is a little bit of a shame. So what I would probably do now with this, if you just is take him out, maybe take out one of the units of chaff and just put more Blood Knights in. Because really on the turn that you pop that Rousing Commander, the buff is nuts. You know, we all know what happens.
Necromancer doesn't do anything.
No, summonable units only. There's nothing to buff these Blood Knights other than that Rousing Commander, but we all know what a +1 damage buff does to armies in Age of Sigmar, right? And this is a big one. And you just want as many of these as possible charging in, crushing stuff. Luckily, they can take a hit back because they got a 3-up save, which is great. You can do stuff with them. Alternatives in this army, obviously there are quite a lot of Blood Knights here. So there's quite a lot of room to play with to get other stuff in. You definitely want some stuff to sit on back objectives. So you definitely want some dead, like 20 Dead Walker zombies sitting on a back objective, luckily is not going to die to most things that would try to move them. Right. Even without buffs. But, you know, obviously there's Joe's just asked, would I consider Avengorii Lord in Castellai? I don't think the -1 rend buff on a stick is worth 280 points. The model dies, and the model dies too easily and doesn't do enough other stuff. It does combine well with a 3-up save. I just don't think it's worth it. What I do think would be potentially playable in this army is Neferata. Would be good. Because again, you know, the -1 to hit buff is good, but the ethereal buff is obviously very good on things with a 3-up save. You've got access to the shield, you've got access to the command ability, etc. So you could easily, you know, take a unit of 5 Blood Knights out on that Vampire Lord, drop a few points elsewhere. You're most of the way there. Again, there are a lot of Blood Knights in this army. You know, there's 30 there. My intention for this was the 5s would maybe go and flank. Because obviously they can't come out to a gravesite, so the 10s can be on the board doing something. The 5s can go and flank and worry someone about where they're going to come on, because obviously they are better than most units that will be guarding an objective or whatever. So, but I think the core of it, you're wanting that Vampire Lord and the Zombie Dragon to carry the Rousing Commander and probably the Fragment of the Keep. Even though he's a bit overcosted, getting all those things on him is good. You're wanting 2 units of 10 Blood Knights to make sure you've got things with the combat potential to crash in, and then the rest of it you need to sit on some objectives and maybe take a toy like Neferata or something to buff them. Outside, so you see, I could not find the Graveguard list I was happy with, and I would competitively, I don't think there is a great one with them in. They're certainly playable. Certainly popping up a unit of 30 of them on a middle objective is going to do some great stuff in some games sometimes. But there's just too many armies that when they get the charge in, you will just kill the unit. Or kill so many of the unit, they won't matter. I think that armies where you might want to play around with, like, splashing in Neferata or or Manfred or Avengorii for the -1 to hit buff. Putting most of them armies together was a little bit of a struggle because they're all just so expensive. 300 or 400 points, and they do good stuff, but for their points, it's a bit questionable. It's like when people used to put Archon in OBR lists. My argument was always like, sure, he does amazing things. Sure, he's reasonably hard to kill thanks to what at the time was a +1 save buff. Did he do enough for 340 points? I don't think he ever did. And I think these Mortarks still fall into that trap now. They're just too many points. If you're running zombies, there is not many things you can spend points on better than a backup Necromancer for Van Hell's Dance. And you want that Vampire Lord. And by the time you've added all those things in, you could definitely fit a Manfred into those armies if you wanted to do that stuff, because you've got a lot on the board, and you'll probably still beat a lot of armies, but you're not beating them because you took the Manfred. You're beating them because the zombies, the corpse carts, and everything else is really good. And so if you want to maximize that, you should just be going into either more zombies, more pieces like zombie dragons that give you something the army can't do, which is get around the board and worry people's backline or whatever, or just more spells, like putting Belladammer in the army for the extra casting unbinds and all that kind of stuff. You should be really supporting the army with efficient pieces. Just because your core is super cheap, we're playing competitive Age of Sigmar, just because the core of your stuff is super cheap doesn't mean you should go and spend the rest of your points on units that are inefficient.
Yeah.
If you're playing less competitively, that's a great thing to be able to do. My core is so cheap, I can take the Manfred that I love. I know certain Australians who will be all over that, which will be great. They'll get a great army with Manfred in. That is still a good army. But if you're talking super competitive, you're on Necromancers, Belladammer, Vampire Lords.
You got in mind? Who's the big Manfred fan? Who's it?
There's at least one. I'm not going to name one big Manfred fan.
Big Manfred fan.
There's literally only one Manfred fan in Australia, and I want him to see this or hear about it. Okay. It's me.
Hey, that's good.
So yeah, all around. Unfortunately,
I like Nighthorns that are gone. They're off doing their Nighthorn thing now. I like that. Legions of Gash has been rewritten into that. Archon's gone, which is cool. Can't see him anymore. So I think that's quite good. I think it definitely. I'm not a player of them, so I can see how you can be like, "Oh, this is all gone. This is all gone." It does feel like very different though, and it does feel like very shook up. Maybe not in all good ways, but I think we've got to think about what lists were around at the end last time, and they weren't particularly interesting.
No, they've always
they didn't have any skeletons or zombies in them. No. I'd like to see Nighthawk gone there, which is good. I guess thank God for zombies, right? They really need the zombies, don't they?
They enable the army, and this happens with most Age of Sigmar books or most Games Workshop game books. Right? There's one good unit that enables the army, and that's unfortunately the world we live in. I think we've been waiting. A lot of people, me included, have been hoping for like a big rework of the faction. Skeletons are going to come out, do something completely different. I was genuinely hoping that skeletons and zombies would just be crap and cost nothing, and vampires would murder stuff in combat. That even seems to be where the fluff is going with a lot of this stuff, and it just isn't borne out on the tabletop. The ambush thing that you do in Legion of Night, you can't ambush and then charge 9 inches in reality. That's not borne out on the tabletop. So I think it's disappointing from a point of view of the flavor of the army. It's just zombies, the book, right? It's disappointing from a flavor point of view of the vampires, particularly like Lady Annika that we talked about before, for example. Doing a vampire-y thing that they could have done. It's disappointing that a bunch of war scrolls that could be options are just dull war scrolls with no rules on. Like, I don't know why they, print war scrolls with no rules on. It's not exciting or fun, is it? It doesn't make us, from a business point of view, it doesn't make us want to go out and build multiple builds of the army. It doesn't make us want to go and spend money. It doesn't necessarily make us want to play Age of Sigmar either. Like sometimes you want to play a lot more because you've got lots of different armies to try. It doesn't do anything for the business or the players. So I don't understand that attitude to it. But all that aside, the book is powerful. Like the zombie thing, as I've illustrated there, is like super powerful.
It really is.
The Avengorii thing is also good. If that wasn't a thing, the Avengorii army, or if you're just into his monster armies, is also a good army. The Blood Knights thing could do with a few tweaks. I think if some of the models come down in points, maybe Blood Knights come down by like 10. And if some of the heroes come down to be a bit more reasonable, like the Vampire Lord and the Zombie Dragon, you know, there's some very playable armies in there. Not doing anything clever, but playable armies as well. So I think from a competitive point of view, it's a good book.
Yeah.
From a fluff and flavor, and you know what people maybe hoped the book might be, it's, you know, a little bit on the disappointing side. But you know, like you said before, I've already ordered my corpse carts. I've already ordered my zombie dragons. I'm going to be ordering a bunch of zombies today. I'm looking forward to putting my grave guard on the table again, and being even better than they used to be, even though that might not be the best army build at the moment. But there's loads of stuff to play with in the book. And it'll be exciting to see, assuming this is a book written for Age of Sigmar 3, be excited to see how the book changes with AOS 3 as well. Because that is likely to be before we play any games, probably. So, go and grab an army, grab some zombies. Definitely grab 80 of them, which is only 4 boxes now, which is good. Definitely grab yourself some corpse carts as well, and just go from there, really, I guess.
Sounds good. Absolutely. Yeah. God, brilliant. Ian, mate, thanks so much for sorting all that out and having so many good points to say on the army. I really appreciate it. Can't wait to see you on the table in our bat reps soon as well, pushing them around. Sort of like the first army, maybe, yeah?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
see how we get on.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a bit more, see how we get painted as a group more than anything, probably, isn't it? So it's a lot of stuff. Yeah. That's great. Well, look, thank you all so much, Ian. Thank you everyone who chipped in the chat. Thank you if you're watching back. Like I said, leave a comment. Let us know what you thought of it. Let us know what you think of Soulblight Gravelords as well going forward. Love to hear that. And if you enjoyed it, check and subscribe. And most of all, if you want to pick up any more Games Workshop or any other hobby products, you can do at justplaygames.uk. We really appreciate your support. There's your one. Thank you so much, Ian. Thank you, mate, for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Guys, thanks so much. We'll catch you next time.